Hello, Tess, can you hear us? Is everything working?
Possibly. We'll see right now.
Hello, hello, hello. Hopefully there's no technical difficulties. Let me turn down the music. Hey y'all, what up? Is the music still too loud or are we good now? Happy Monday, Noah. Happy Monday. MX Sounds Music Group. What up?
MX as in Mexico? Punto MX? Boom. DK over here just walking around on wet grass. DK, your shirt matches quite a bit with the room.
Yes, and my water bottle. Oh, it's got blue liquid inside.
It's
And my phone case. A lot of lavender. A lot of lavender today.
Is that Mountain Dew Baja Blast in there?
It's Gatorade.
Oh, okay.
Like a super watered down Gatorade.
CC.
All right, what up? What up? Pixel people, say hello, everybody in the chat. Thanks for joining us. If you're watching on Instagram, come join us on Twitch. I'm not really paying attention to the phone here on Instagram on the phone, so come join us on Twitch. You'll actually be able to see Leslie. We're going to be talking to and interviewing Leslie Brathwaite today, so today should be an exciting episode. Come join us on Twitch.
Noah, question. What genre of Mexican music did you do? Were you doing like timbales, congas, tambora? Like, what were you doing? You were missing a Leslie interview. Crossbone T says, no way, I was missing a Leslie interview. I think we were too. We were going to do it last week, but it got postponed to this week. So, if you missed out on that one, the good thing is you didn't miss out.
Yeah, we've been trying to do it. So the story is the first week, he just needed to postpone, just miscommunication. Second week, so last week we were supposed to interview, and he said, he got like a last minute phone call. So one of his celebrity clients was doing a music video shoot and had featured another big celebrity client, but that client didn't show up to the music video shoot, so they were scrambling back and forth to just remove that person from the song. And so it was like a whole thing. It got really, really hectic. But that's all taken care of. Leslie's got time this week, so we're really excited. So hopefully we have a bunch of people show up to hang out, learn from Leslie. So if you want us to ask any questions, he should officially be joining us around 2:30.
I think I'm going to ask him what his favorite types of socks are. I feel like people who have a specific type of sock are also a specific type of person. Like, have you ever met somebody who's like, oh, I only wear this kind of clothing of this material? But socks, I've met people who are very specific about socks, and they become very interesting in my life. Like, I'm not a specific sock person, but I've met a few, and they're always interesting to ask questions.
Yeah, but we'll find out what's going to happen, what kind of questions we're going to ask. We're just excited that he's willing to be on the show. This episode will be recorded, so we may not be able to answer everybody's questions unless they're extremely pertinent to the show. But yeah, Crossbone T, we are having a Leslie interview. Does the room also smell of lavender? It does not smell of lavender. I would fall asleep if it did. He said it was regional Mexican music.
It smells of transience and compression.
Yeah, so pin your friends. Come on, join in our Twitch chat. Once in a lifetime opportunity here. I have not been doing very good with Twitch, which is why we're hoping to have more people join in.
I'm not going to lie. It's kind of funny. Guys, I need you guys to chime in. What is DK standing up to do? He's trying to remember. I want you guys to come up with the wildest response. What is DK standing up to do?
I keep standing up to do something, and then I keep completely forgetting what I'm standing
You're looking
up
to
do.
make
Like
regional music right now. You're looking for your regional Mexican music book.
I have no idea why I stood up. I literally, genuinely have no clue why I stood up.
Did it have to do with socks? One of the references was Los Tigres del Norte. Oh my God, yeah. I've worked with those guys before. Good time.
Some
bolero stuff. Yeah. To be honest, I actually do live sound for Latin concerts, and it's actually really cool to see. It's like it's a demographic that doesn't die. Like, literally, I kid you not, one of the people performing last Friday was 82 years old, and like he was so old that he sang like this, and like he couldn't even hit the notes anymore, but people were going crazy for the guy. Like, he couldn't even sing anymore, and they were like, it was sold out and everything.
Impressive.
DK went to find his lavender socks. Actually, do you have lavender socks?
No,
now I have to ask.
Socks. I have black socks.
Black socks all the time?
Oh, I remember what I stood up for.
It had to do with lavender socks.
My Leslie Bible. I have a Leslie Bible. When I went to Mix with Masters with him a few years ago, I took a bunch of notes about things that he said, questions that I asked of that nature.
Oh, yeah, we still got to find out what he calls his mix bus.
Oh, he calls it, it's the Yep He names it Yep. But there's a backstory behind it that he didn't share with us to the group.
I wanna say an artist was in the studio and it's like, hey, can you throw that on the yeah, you know, the yep, that yep.
Oh, what up, Bob? Bob's getting married
Hey,
next
it's
week.
Bob. Yeah, Castaways.
Nice.
Yeah,
Congratulations,
Bob.
Finally,
Mm.
one less man available in this world.
See, my sock comment jogged his memory.
Hello from Gran Canaria in Spain.
Canaria.
Yes, Canaria in Spain. That's like Japanese pronunciation.
Hello there, white-faced friend. Is
Hello,
that
friends.
a robot
Hello,
face? Is that a
Master by
mask?
Braden.
What is that?
Yes. I hope that your bachelor's party was way fun.
Oh,
I
thanks
saw
for
your
the
post.
invite.
I saw that you were playing poker or something with Chip. So
Oh yeah, that's
This
right.
is
He was
fun.
wearing the funny glasses.
funny glasses.
Yes.
Anyway, we're big congratulations to you on your marriage. Especially excited. I said that in the most unexcited tone
Yeah,
ever.
I am very happy for you. You are
We are
a
very
good man.
excited.
You will live a long life, and it is your birthday. And yes, congratulations.
Also, we are 1 follower away from 600 followers. I will dance for you.
Bob, are you following?
I will
Please tell me
dance
you're
for
following.
you. I will dance for you if we have 1 more follower. Also, I need to change. I'm not gonna do sing mode anymore. I'm gonna do heavy Japanese accent mode. So you can redeem your. Let me go to the settings and make that come true.
I will figure out another weird voice. I'll just come up with a random voice because I don't know if I can do a heavy Japanese accent. Because I'll be honest, I haven't listened to a lot of heavy Japanese accents, so everything I come up with would probably be like the furthest away from Japanese.
Hold on.
I might come out Swedish.
Heavy Japanese accent mode.
Can you write it with a heavy Japanese accent in the writing?
Have to speak English in a. So here we go. This is going to be available in a second. English in a heavy Japanese accent. Okay, and that costs 2,500 points.
Ooh.
Let me edit the image too to be something.
Actually, that reminds me. I need to be watching you so I can redeem points too.
There you go. Skip reward, background color. I need to change the icon for that, but we're good.
Twitching my nitchy.
So posture check, hydrate, stretch, emote only chat is not available. I'll make that available, but we'll make it like 1,000 points instead of 700.
What can I get for 740? Can we negotiate on the chat?
So emotes only chat, we're going to try that once. And then highlight my message, unlock a random sub for 320. Choose an emote to unlock, modify a single emote. There you go. So we have a bunch of points now that you can spend. Heavy Japanese accent, mastered by Braden, has already... Well, damn it.
Good job, mastered by Braden.
Hello, my wonderful friends. So thank you for coming to this live stream with my best friend Ru.
Oh,
Ru, welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining us.
fuck. I'm trying to think of like a Mexican accent. I don't have a bad Mexican accent.
We are very excited to talk today for Leslie Brathwaite for coming to our stream. He is a wonderful engineer and very, very welcome to stream. We will be recording from 2:30 p.m. 2:30 p.m. we will record this podcast episode with Leslie Brathwaite. Have you heard of Leslie Brathwaite? Leslie Brathwaite?
Damn, I'm really having to think about a bad Mexican accent. Like I never had to try. See.
Do you understand? do you chat? Do you understand what I am saying, or am I too hard to understand? Is this too hard to understand?
No.
Do you understand me?
I think your Nintendo.
In English, in English, this is purple. In English, this is purple. Purple Gatorade. You hungry for beef sandwiches at McDonald's?
Tacos?
Hamburger at McDonald's?
How is this so easy for you to like follow up? I'm actually struggling to even think about it.
Most of my family is a very bad accent, so I am very good at listening to bad Japanese.
Oh my
This
God.
is my third language.
It's funny because in my family, like if you don't speak one or the other, you just speak whichever one's easiest, and you respond in whichever one's easiest. Like I will speak Spanish to my aunts and uncles, but with my cousins, we only speak English, so that we've never had like the in between.
What
did I
says,
just
like,
come
what did I
into?
just come into?
So DK just got to America today.
No more single mode available on the stream. Only Japanese heavy accent stream だけ.
Y'all need to trigger this in the middle of the interview with Leslie.
No, definitely. If
Just
you
do it.
trigger
Do
that in
it.
the middle of the interview with Leslie.
If 3 people in a row trigger it in the middle of the interview, he has to do it.
Oh my gosh.
Leslie's gonna be like, wait, we met in France, so you spoke perfect English out there. Now you're in America. What is going on?
But yeah, we're excited. Leslie should be hopping on sometime in the next 10 to 20 minutes. Just wanted to verify. Hold on, let me text him too, just in case.
Texaru?
Oh, sorry. Let me text Leslie to make sure he is on the podcast.
This is a little too advanced of like that's
I
not
can
even
do this forever. This takes no mental exercise for me.
it does for me.
Do you understand completely?
Completely.
What
Yeah.
I am saying?
Yeah.
Okay, good. This is very good.
I'm just like realizing the one part I guess I luckily skipped in my life. Which is like if they didn't speak it or felt comfortable in it, they just didn't even try.
Maybe if I speak more angry and lower, I will sound like samurai.
Like I can speak bad Spanish.
Yes.
I could speak bad Spanish with a very American accent, but I can't speak bad English with a Mexican accent. Like it's weird.
I don't even know Mexican accent.
That's the thing. Like it's one of those where like they're too proud to just have the accent. They were like, do you seriously just not speak Spanish? Like, do I really have to try in English? Please, Spanish, please. Oh man. No, it's kind of funny because my mom, like, she forced us to speak Spanish as kids. Like, we were not allowed to respond in English. We'd have to respond in Spanish. And not that she didn't want us to learn English, but she wanted to make sure that we spoke Spanish. And we were talking about it this weekend, like how much of a benefit knowing a second language, at what age we started learning and all that kind of stuff. The fact that it's a second language, English, for me, was a little bit weird growing up, but like we literally did not have an understanding of what the difference of language was. We just spoke and we understood.
I do that too sometimes, where like I'll speak Japanese or English to someone,
not
and
realizing
like
you did.
between the two and not realizing I did.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I saw our neighbor's grandson with a basketball, and me not realizing there's a difference between Spanish and English. I was like, well, in Spanish, like, hey, ¿quieres jugar conmigo? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish. I'm like, what the fuck is Spanish? And I just like looked at him so confused, and I looked at my dad. I'm like, he doesn't want to play because he doesn't. What is Spanish? He's like, oh, just ask him if you want to play. I asked him again. He's like, oh, I understand that. I was like, what's going on?
So the interesting thing is that for some reason my son can differentiate between the two. So Kaname, when I say speak English, he'll speak English. When I say speak Japanese, he'll speak Japanese.
I was about to say, does he know Spanish too?
He does because of Dora. I've heard him at the park say, no, not abre. What?
Para?
Para at the park.
Yeah. I've got enough points to trigger it twice, so watch out. Oh, Brayden, please do.
So,
Actually,
para. So, we're really, really excited for today's interview with Leslie. We have a lot of questions for him, what he's been working on, and we're going to basically have him teach us a lesson. And he's someone that I look up to as far as like philosophy of mixing and philosophy of life. I think he has great insight. He's a thinker. He's very kind. He is extremely kind, very gracious, and a great example of someone who deserves success in their life. And we're going to talk a lot about a lot of different things. The dance of anger. Keep positive people around.
Seriously, that's one I learned way too late.
So we're really, really excited. So if you have any questions that you'd like for us to ask Leslie before we get started, please write them in right now. Like, type them in right now. If you don't know, Leslie Brathwaite is the engineer for many, many big, famous people. Most recently for
Luke.
Pharrell, Cardi B, obviously. All of Cardi B's stuff is mixed, and Pharrell's stuff is mixed with Leslie. Lil Uzi Vert, previously Jack Harlow, has worked with also Michael Jackson, Lauryn Hill, Biggie, and what else? He's mixed for a lot of people. So many people that I cannot even name, actually.
He mixed my most recent single.
He did?
No. I don't have a single. I'm not musically inclined like that. I wish I was.
Kanye, Beyonce, Ariana Grande, Jay-Z, Lupe Fiasco,
Rita
the
Ora.
Fugees, and Lauryn Hill, Outkast, G-Eazy.
Wait, if he did Outkast, did he ever do Andre specifically?
Um,
Andre 3000?
yeah, the whole Outkast crew, I assume. And
No, but like when he branched off.
oh, I don't know. Good question.
Yeah, because remember they did a split album?
Probably.
It was Outkast, but it was Andre and Big Boy's album as one.
Possibly, yeah. He mixed the Happy record with Pharrell.
Yeah.
Rita Ora. There you go. That's the newest one. Lots of cool people. So, lots of experience. Very much experienced, and honestly, just a very kind and gracious person. You've heard me talk a lot about him on the first few beginning episodes of the podcast because I started the podcast right after we had done our week-long getaway in France together for Mix with the Masters. So, you've heard me talk a lot about him on previous episodes, and I've used a lot of his examples on further episodes along the line as well. So this is a very awesome, groundbreaking episode for us in the sense that he's been a big influence on my career. And honestly speaking, I would say that his presence in my life is part of the reason why I've been doing so well. Like, I think he genuinely changed the trajectory of my career, and I'm able to have as much confidence as I have now and have as much work as I have now because of him, partially, or at least due to his influence and how he's mentally and emotionally helped me get over myself in many different ways. So really, really excited to have him on.
We need to have redeemable points for virtual hug.
Vert hugs. Virtual hugs.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Vert
feel free to
hugs.
ask questions right now. Now's your chance. If you're watching, if you're viewing, come and ask questions. If you're on Instagram, come join us on Twitch, where we are. Who should be joining us sometime soon.
So I have a question.
You have a question.
All right. So would you say that Mix with the Masters as a whole, would you say that the experience of the week-long seminar is worth its price point compared to the virtual classes? Like, have you ever watched the virtual version of the one you attended?
Absolutely. Because you don't get the network from watching the videos. You don't
Okay,
get
forget the network. Let's just say the education.
the education. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a lot more in-depth and in person. You get to ask personal questions. So
Okay.
if they're doing something, then like you can stop them and say,
Because what is
Why
it,
did you
like
do that?
$300 for the
For a
actual
year.
video
for a year.
course for a year with everybody included, or what is it, 10,000 for one person for
No.
7 days?
So it totally depends on the seminar, but typically it's about $3,000 to $6,000 for the seminar. But it
Okay.
ends up being close. You add a couple thousand on top of that because you have to buy the plane tickets yourself and have a hotel before and after if you are staying before or after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely.
Like what would be a proper estimated cost of
So
that
I paid
be?
about $6,000 for everything.
Okay. So aside from the networking, you'd still say that the 6,000 is worth every penny more than the 300 or 350.
And I would say that
think
it
is.
determines on it's determined based on your
Need, I guess.
your need and what your
Because it sounds
your
like
point
you
of your
had a
career.
pretty personal revolutionary experience.
That was that.
Yeah.
I think I could have. Mine, I didn't have $100,000, but if I did, and if I had to dedicate at some point in my life $100,000 for that seminar, that would have been worth it.
Okay.
Because
I mean, at that point, I wouldn't go for the seminar. I'd just pay Leslie, be like, hey, I want you to mix my records, and I want to be present for every single one.
yeah, so like that's just one of those things where, yeah, totally. I think it was absolutely worth it.
Cool. Mix with the Masters. Sponsor us. DK will vouch for you.
Yeah, the physical one was worth it, and I think it was especially worth it because it was Leslie specifically.
Yeah.
Because I think the week before us, there was a dude in the group that had been to like 4 seminars in a row.
Damn.
He was from Africa, and he had a white dude from Africa, and he was like staying for like 3-4 weeks in a row. And he told us Andrew Sheps was the week before. I think like Manny Merrick won the week before that, or something like that.
And I know Andrew Sheps is another minimalist too.
No, he's the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, Andrew Sheps is super complicated.
Because the few
Really,
times,
like parallel on parallel on parallel.
I guess I don't really see that as complicated, but like, yeah.
600th follower, straight tripping.
He's straight tripping.
Wow. Do we need to do a dance?
I have a question. When he made that username, was he tripping? He's like, dude, they're asking me to come up with the username. I don't know, man. I'm straight tripping right now. It's like, oh my God, that's it. I'm straight tripping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, the dude at the course said that like Andrew Sheps, it was funny to go back to back because Andrew Sheps was like one of the most difficult to understand templates and session routing and everything into Leslie, who was like the most simple
And in the box.
the simplest and in the box.
You know,
So it's just like
I
so
think
it
the
was like
reason
a
I
good
like
contrast.
Sheps as not necessarily overcomplicated is because he came from consoles. And he's very open and verbal about, fuck the console. You don't need it. Like, he sold his and said, I just recreated my entire routing in the box. And I think that may be why it was kind of weird, because it comes from a console mindset, which
Probably.
coming up, I learned on consoles from all my other mentors. But I always looked up Andrew Sheps. Like, I always actually was a huge fan of his work and everything. So, like, you're right. He is a huge, like, parallel everything kind of guy. But like one of the lessons I recently taught to my students was about his rear bus compression trick. Have you seen that?
What?
So he doesn't apply anything to the actual master bus. He does it on the rear bus.
Rear bus.
Yeah, so that is more of a quadraphonic console kind of thing. So if you ever notice, there'd be like there'd be the 2 bus and then the rear bus, and that was very popular on Neves for quite a while. So what was the movie that Disney made that was using quadraphonic sound? It was one of the only major movies to ever use it.
Quadraphonic sound.
Yeah, basically front left, back left, front right, back right.
That did quadraphonic sound has aged well. No,
Yeah.
I've never even heard of
I like how it's become literally the equivalent comparison for any new form of mixing. It's like, oh, what do you think about Dolby Atmos? Do you think it's quadraphonic? It's like, I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. We'll see how it ages.
Yeah.
Because quadraphonic only lasted for so long, but so many consoles were made for it that became iconic. Like the 8068 has a front and rear bus. But he does all of his compression, EQ, and everything for his master bus on the rear bus and then blends it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it literally, kind of like Leslie, where it's as little to do with the master bus as possible, if anything. But he does it on a parallel. But that's kind of like the fundamental of everything. He does that for vocals. He does that for drums. He does that for, guitars, whatever. It doesn't really matter. He almost parallels every single track.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Also, Leslie has been streaming. I think you can find him on Twitch, Lester Bud, at twitch.tv/LesterBud. He plays Modern Warfare, Call of Duty, I think 1 to 3 times a week with various people, and he calls it 808s and supply crates, and you can ask him questions and hang out with him online while he plays video games. I think he's doing a great job of just enjoying life. And
I'm not gonna lie, I watched one. Well, actually, I watched a few, just leaving it in the background as support. But one of the ones I was paying attention to was hilarious. They had this I want to say, we can ask him about it. I don't know if he'll remember, but it was a 10 to 15-year-old kid talking about, he's like, yeah, I got bitches, this and that. And Leslie and his friends are kind of floored by it. He's like, yo, this guy's really talking the talk. And how old are you? And he's like, oh, I'm 12, but I got like 3 girlfriends, this and that. It's like, what is going on? Like, I got glued to the conversation because we're like, this is literally what we talk about when it comes to online gaming language. Like, it's either like really friendly, really angry, really racist, or there's this 12-year-old with 3 girlfriends and he's going into detail about his relationship, and like he's like, oh, I can't let either one of them know about the other. And it's just wild. Like, Leslie's Twitch is actually really entertaining, even if it's just a video game ones.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I kind of want to find these
that
people
kid's
on
a
the
liar
internet.
also. So
He has to be. But like, he was so confident in everything that he said. I was just like, you know what? I want to know you. I want to interview you. You might be the next Island Boys.
It's fun. Yeah, dude. That's so funny. I remember being 12. No, I don't really remember. Do I remember being 12?
I definitely remember being 12. Think about it. That's like 6th grade. Do you remember 6th grade?
I think I remember being 12, but if I think about it, like 6th grade, no, I don't really remember what happened. Or like, I remember none of my friends were into drugs yet. That's all I really remember.
You know what? Yeah, I remember everybody's voices breaking up, but I don't remember anybody talking about weed until high school.
I remember 8th grade was when things started getting dark.
Yeah. Yeah, when you kind of just started noticing like major personality shifts.
Yeah.
Yeah. At one point it was like, who's on my team for kickball? And the next part's like, yo, who's ditching class? It's like, whoa, what happened? Where did the childhood go?
I remember when I moved to Virginia for 8th grade through graduating high school. I remember emailing old elementary, middle school friends from Chicago where I was living before, be like, I heard that you've been smoking recently. I'm disappointed in you, or like, I can't believe you would do such a thing. And I feel so stupid for ever saying that, but that was a real thing that I used to say.
To be honest, it's kind of wild.
Fantasia used quadraphonic sound.
Fantasia, that's what it was.
What up, Evan? What up, guys? When I was 12, I was playing Call of Duty on a 7-Eleven Del Taco diet. That's right.
When I was 12, I was
Not much
playing
different now.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 at my friend's house. And then we'd go outside and skate. Times have changed.
Oh, when I was 12, 13, oh, that's right. I discovered rock music for the first time ever because that's when I played Guitar Hero 3 for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I listened to Tom Sawyer by Rush for the first time literally hours ago.
Yeah, and he heard Wonderwall for the first time 6 months ago.
And I'm gonna say some very disappointing things.
Oh, and he learned to he heard Holy Diver by Dio today for the first time.
That was a band called Dio?
So Dio is the front man, but Dio was amazing all throughout his career. Dio was the second lead singer, and by second I mean like he came in after Richie Blackmore no longer wanted to be front man for the band Rainbow. Dio then came in and fucking killed it so good that Richie Blackmore then decided to call Rainbow Richie Blackmore's Rainbow. Like, talk about the ego move. Like, oh, this guy's really good. He outsang me in my old stuff. I need to retitle the band My Band.
So Evan says Dio was also really, really short. Well,
he was. He was like 5 foot.
In JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, he was not short at all. Hold on, just to make sure that we have proper reference to
shortness
to
Dio? JoJo?
Hold on, we need to have proper reference. Hold on, wait a second. Here we go.
But yeah, no, Dio ended up becoming like the lead singer of Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne's band. And then Ozzy Osbourne created Ozzy Osbourne. And then Dio left Black Sabbath and then created Dio. And then Dio ended up becoming one of the most celebrated metal singers in history.
This is so beyond my scope of understanding. Because I have a Japanese mother who definitely did not listen to metal or anything American per se.
I can relate to that.
And then I have a dad who is young enough. I have a dad who's young enough that he grew up listening to like hip hop, like pop music and hip hop. So like, definitely like he listened to a lot of Eminem.
Yeah, my dad was not on that same spectrum, but similar. So
talking about Dio, hold on. I got one from Dio. Hold on, wait. Go ahead.
So my mom, when she found out that when she got me an acoustic guitar that I was learning how to play rock music, she took it away, and she's like, "Nope, Spanish music only." Once again, heritage. But then my dad was also the guy that grew up listening to like Pink Floyd. So yeah, I kind of get it, but like my dad did not listen to hip hop; he listened to rock. So. Different demographic.
Son of a bitch!
If anybody gets these references. Oh, that's the right one. What is that from? Can anybody get the reference there?
I have a question. What is yada yada dase?
Yada yada does it. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh, okay.
Like it's like, oh my.
No.
Hey, but it's a very specific, unique way of saying that. I'm trying to trigger this one.
To be continued. Oh, the outro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not working. It's not working. It's gonna work all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully we'll have him on soon.
Plot twist. He's waiting in the lobby. New.
Hold on. Sorry, y'all. So let's see. With the main voice, he was in Tenacious D with Jack Black. Oh, he was?
Oh, yes. Oh my God, yes.
Wait, that was him?
Dude,
Kyle?
No, Kyle was Kyle. Dio was the guy in the poster. Oh my God, I had to look this up.
Oh, the movie poster
Yeah.
that he like.
Do you remember at the beginning and he's like, Dio, will you help me? Will you come down from your throne? Yeah.
Okay.
What is it?
Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Do you take suggestions for topics on the podcast? Yeah,
Always.
we do, for sure.
Yeah.
We always do.
Especially if it's about Dio.
Give us questions and suggestions. Although we're just waiting for Leslie to hop on the stream with us. Never mind. Found the topic. What? Never mind.
Did you find my soul?
Found the topic.
Because I've been looking for it. But dude, yeah, no, Dio is like one of the most celebrated metal singers, and it's kind of funny because he had a beef with Rob Halford, which is the lead singer of Judas Priest.
Another band I've never listened to. I don't think I know a single Judas Priest song. I don't even know what they look like.
To be honest, you probably do. You probably just don't know it.
Which one?
Let's see. Let's look at the
Go to their
menu.
number one Spotify played song, and if I don't know, I don't know.
Okay.
Because
let's
like,
see.
he says Painkiller.
No, Painkiller is one of them. Painkiller is a song. Let's see. Judas Priest.
You are on Instagram. Come join us on Twitch. Living After Midnight.
Breaking the law. Breaking the law. Breaking the law.
Play their number one song. Oh, that's their number one song.
Yeah.
Never heard this song.
It actually came out in Guitar Hero as well.
Play. If it wasn't on Guitar Hero 3,
Painkiller. There we go.
No, go back to the other one. I've heard you play this song before.
Yeah.
Like you played this in the last year at the studio. Painkiller. Also, go back to that song. Go to the chorus of the Breaking the Law song. Definitely never heard that song. Never heard that song.
It's a very simplified song.
Wow.
Yeah, it kind of sucks because Judas Priest was actually hated on for a little while in the middle of their prime because Rob Halford came out as gay, which is very not kosher at the time.
In what years? At what decade?
80s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, think about it. When when Freddie Mercury admitted to it, like they took a lot of slack too, and they're one of the most celebrated bands in history.
He says, I remember DK mentioned Metallica on one of the last episodes. I probably mentioned to them about a brand or as something generic as a band because I don't listen to Metallica.
Yeah, DK is like the furthest from Metallica fan.
The only Metallica songs I know are from Guitar Hero 3, which
For Whom the Bell Tolls?
I know there was a couple of Metallica bands. Like
I mean,
Black
they
Rain
literally had a Metallica edition Guitar Hero, where it was nothing but Metallica.
Yeah,
like,
no, I definitely didn't listen to that or didn't play that. I literally don't listen to like rock or metal in any.
What about
sense I've never
Goldfinger?
had. It got to
Did
the
you ever
point
listen
where
to Goldfinger?
I listened to no. Oh wait,
they're like
ska
ska
band?
rock. They're
the
like
ska band. Yeah,
yeah,
of course.
Superman. The song.
Yeah, of course. That's from Guitar. That's from Tony Skate. Yeah, no, that's
Tony
ska.
Hawk Pro Skater
That's
2,
not
yeah.
ska rock. That's just ska.
Well, I don't know what the fuck you're the ska aficionado.
So
I don't want to insult
of
your
the moment. Of the
thing.
moment.
Yeah.
Of the moment. I'm definitely not. I've
Yeah.
listened to some ska, but not too much. Although I accidentally started a ska band. It was meant to be a punk band or a funk band, but it ended up being kind of like a ska band.
Yeah.
We had to like retransition back into funk pop.
It was kind of like our meeting earlier where like I forget who it was said like, oh, I know that band, they're like black metal, right? I was like, actually no, they're progressive alternative, but yeah, no. And he's like, oh, that's right, black metal's from like Norwegian. I'm like, yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
We'll
I've heard
see.
about black metal as well.
Yeah.
So I was so ignorant about metal and rock music in general that when I discovered Vampire Weekend in high school, because I thought all rock music was like Guitar Hero, where it was like super overdriven guitar.
Yeah.
So in high school, for the first time ever, I listened to Vampire Weekend, and I realized, oh, there can be rock bands that aren't hard and heavy.
Yeah.
And like, it's not really a rock band, I would say, but I mean, like, it was guitar-driven white people music that wasn't screaming and super overdriven, and I was like, "Oh wow!" Because I've listened to a lot of like bands from like reggae.
Yeah,
I have tons of reggae background.
Yeah.
So it's just like that blew my mind. That's how little I knew about like the rock and the band industry.
This is the parallel of like me and DK right here. In August, I'm planning a Vegas trip with my friends. We're gonna go see a band called Emperor, who hasn't played in America for I think it's between 15 and 18 years. And it's literally a black metal band that just tours the world, but they just refuse to play in America.
Also, 32 Demon Evan asks, I'm going to take your word for -9 LUFS on hip hop, Lou.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your confidence in my answers and my advice. Although I will say this, just do whatever feels right. If it gets louder than that, cool. But me and DK might be a little scared for your transients and dynamics. But yeah, no, I got asked to master a song at -5 the other day. And I rolled off all the low end. And they're like, why is there less bass? I'm like, that's what's eating. Your entire song was nothing but 808 and snare. Like, there was literally nothing else I could take away to make it louder.
That's crazy. Yeah, no, here's the thing. With anything, LUFS is not a perfect thing. Just keep in mind, like, if you have even within the same genre, I think we talked about this before, if you have a hip-hop song that doesn't have 808s and it's only very transient kick drums the entire track, right, versus a song that has droning sub bass the entire time, -9 is going to sound way different on both those songs.
Yeah.
So -9 on a song with only kick drums, sporadic kick drums without any bass, is going to be significantly louder than a song with -9 with droning bass.
Yeah.
So it's not a perfect system.
But it's just a system. So, to answer 32 Demon, yes, Bullet for My Valentine. I actually went to go see them live with my fiance once, and they put on a really damn good show. So if you ever have a chance to see them live, definitely go. And usually they have a good set of opening bands. Like, every time I hear about like the bands that are opening for them when they're in town, it's usually a really good set list. So I definitely recommend hitting them and seeing them live if you can. But yeah, Bullet for My Valentine, did you ever hear that one? They were like the top band for their genre from like, I want to say like 2008 to like 2012. That was like around, they came out around Avenged Sevenfold. Did you ever listen to Avenged Sevenfold? They were in Guitar Hero.
I know of Avenged Sevenfold.
Yeah.
Also, Leslie said 5 minutes.
Okay.
So yeah, I have listened to Avenged Sevenfold, and like those are more like modern. Yeah. And I've heard of those because of friends that I grew up with.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I'm sure you didn't really hang out with like necessarily like the rock circle back in high school. I know you were pretty open to everybody in school, but like I always hung out with like the rock circle of people, and it was always almost destructively competitive. Of like each person had like a subgenre that they preferred. Like when you ask anybody their top 5 artists, you'll always get a different answer. That's just natural. But it was almost like
there's a culture
competitive. Yeah, it's like, well, I listen to this band. This band's better because like they got the better drummer and they got the better this. Yeah, well, their guitar tones suck. This and that. It was it was destructive at that point, you know.
Shats Mixes says, "Are you guys planning to put Atmos in your mix rooms?" I'm not planning on it anytime soon.
To be honest, my room's not big enough for me to justify it, and honestly speaking, I don't have the workload to even justify it. I have been offered mastering gigs already for Atmos, to be honest, and what I'll tell you to do, what I've told everybody.
I will hire a studio.
Yeah, subcontract it. Like, you can take on the job and you can oversee it, and at that point take an executive role. But if you have no intention of being in Atmos or wanting to actually finance it, it's totally fine to subcontract
I'll engineer it myself, but I'll go rent the studio.
Yeah, exactly. Just subcontract it. You don't have to convert your room for it. Because to be honest, the only people asking for Atmos mixes right now are labels. And at a certain point, the work will dry up. and then you're stuck with an Atmos room waiting for people who need it. Right now, they're doing a lot of backlogging. You know, they want all the Billie Holiday and Atmos, but let's be honest, like how many of those session files are even available nowadays?
So I would say that the growth of Atmos
It's fast.
is based on if Apple continues to pay more per stream for Atmos mixes, for spatial audio
Yeah.
mixes than for. So it's more based on the economics around it. If as soon as Apple stops funding and paying more per stream for spatial mixes, yeah, the Atmos system is gonna die.
Oh, to be clear, 32 Demon, we did not buy it. We demoed it. I'm actually good friends with the people at SSL, along with my friend Bryson, who also has the same contacts over there. So we just kind of set up like a demo to help SSL kind of show the product to different people at our studio. More specifically out of my office. You know, the studio was booked the day of. But what we ended up kind of finding out is that some of the features are actually a lot more useful than the unit itself, if that makes sense. I think the compression was cool. I think the EQ was cool, but I think the feature set was the biggest seller. But I don't think tonally speaking was it like a big, like,
It's got a lot of
eye-opener.
features and a lot
Yeah.
of like options and workarounds. It's very, very flexible.
It's very flexible. Really, like that New York bus compression switch, like, is nice that you can actually go from dry to wet, or you can do New York style.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one's so it's cool, but
I don't think I'd sell my Mogs or Shadow Hills for it.
yeah, no, that's up to you, right? But I
Yeah.
don't think it's worth. If you have gear that you want to replace it with, maybe it's worth it. You know, you're already using something that's of similar value, so you sell that one and get this one. So there's
Yeah.
no zero net spend. But you know, the most disappointing product of this year for me was the API monitor controller.
Yeah,
think
to
that
be
was the most
honest.
I think that was the most unfortunate and depressing product. Not because I don't love API. I'm a big fan of API.
Yeah, actually,
But
like,
because
I have
there was
a bunch of API
there
stuff.
was
Yeah.
nothing innovative with it.
No.
Absolutely nothing innovative with it.
In fact, the form factor of its design just looked
it's
really
sloppy
clunky.
looking. It's clunky, and there's nothing innovative with it, or any new functions or.
Yeah.
It's just like, do you want a monitor controller that's overpriced? Well, we have one that's branded for API for all you that like API.
Yeah, it looks just like the drummer.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I think that was the most depressing piece of gear this year. Like, innovate or die, folks. And right now, like, has been like SSL. The one reason why I want to, if I would buy SSL Bus Plus or anything like that, is because I want to support innovation.
Yeah.
Not because I think it's a good like.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, the new Atom line that you sent me, the A series, is got me curious because there's two things I'm looking for on the market, and I'm actually talking to a product designer right now
Thank you for
about
following,
creating a
produced by
monitor
22.
controller for this. But I would love to see room correction available on the monitor controller, as built-in DSP on the
Ooh,
outputs.
on the monitor controller. There you
Yes, instead of on the monitor itself, because then you're not limited to which monitor you prefer that has it available, but rather which is your preferred monitor,
go. That's a good
and then
idea.
correct from there.
That'll
So
come out in the next couple of years. I assume
it
so.
will, because it's already on monitors. We've seen it in I forget the first brand,
The
and then Adams now did it.
Scanlan.
Yeah, the big red monitors.
Yeah, so now,
Um,
if you haven't heard before, we're talking about the new A series Atom monitors. The new A series
they're
will
already
have-
available.
they will have, they're available now for purchase. You can buy them. The
Mm-hmm.
new A series, and they have a bunch of different models. We can look at them together right now, but
Yeah.
they will include, you can upload your sound ID, reference ID profiles into that, so you can have the room correction built into the monitor's output.
Exactly.
So you don't have to pull up any more software or change the input. That would be worth it for me, because the
Yes.
only reason why I don't use outboard, part of the big reason is because I'm using Sound ID as the output device.
Exactly.
We're using it as a plugin, and that shit's annoying.
Now imagine if you could actually, because this is where, like, I forget the parent. I don't know if it's a parent company or a sister company to Sound ID reference. But what is that hardware unit? Trinov. Like the Trinov system.
That's a third party. That's a different one.
That's third party. But either way, like it essentially operates as a hardware version, but it's so overpriced that no monitor would be worth doing that outside of just calibrating for that one monitor. It's a really cool system, but it puts people so out of their own price point that, like, I'd rather buy a really good monitor controller than a Trinov system. But if there was a way to meld the two, Even if it was a partnership with Sound ID Reference, put it only on the outputs. Put 3 sets, so you could have a calibrated set of NS10s and a calibrated set of Strauss or
Or be
whatever.
able to like turn it off. So like I can switch the
Exactly.
speaker to uncalibrated.
But imagine going into a studio that you're not necessarily familiar with, but you found out, hey, this room has been calibrated because we have these tools and we actually measured the room. Now you're like worried less about the room, and you're just like, okay, I can work a little more confidently. So for like a user standpoint, it becomes a confidence factor. You know what I mean? But more than that, like at the studio, I like the Questeds. I would love to have a pair of NS10s or the PMCs in there, sure, but I don't want to have to open Sound ID Reference and have to click through the profiles every time I want to switch monitors. I just want to quickly hit a button and switch, quickly switch back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that there's Jones Scanlon. That's what it was. Jones Scanlon and Adam has been doing Sound ID, Reference ID, Sonar Works in their speakers, built into the speakers, which is really interesting. They've got a couple new designs. So they have the regular 4-inch one, like the desktop one, and now they have dual 4-inch that's really flat and long.
It's actually the 19-inch. Did you see that? It's a rack-mountable 19-inch monitor.
Yeah. Which is really cool. It's really cute, actually. It's like really flat and long, and it's got. I want to
understand the practicality of it, though. Like, you know what? No, now I know it.
In the rack? Putting it in the rack?
Yeah, but get this. Now I know what it is. Touring groups, people that need reference monitors that they can calibrate on tour, so that the front of house engineer has a reference point, even if the band's not there, where he can actually blend the elements. Oh my God, I kind of want them because I always need this. I always need this when I'm on side. When I'm doing monitor mixes, I kind of want to, and like there's no front of house and I have to do everything myself. It's actually really useful having a pair of like Genelecs or at the time, JBL was one of the only ones doing this, where they actually have their own built-in system where you can calibrate the monitor. You would actually just go on tour, calibrate for your listening position as close as you can and match the venue as much as you can. And then that way you could actually confidently know what's being played out to the actual audience. But if they're rack mountable in 19-inch chassis, maybe you can actually just throw them in rack mounts, throw them in the tour bus, and there's your reference monitors. Instead of having to have the touring cases, then pull the monitor out and whatever, you know, you could just sit it next to the. Oh my gosh.
Here you go.
Bruh.
Wait, hit the one above the bruh. Well, the one above bruh. Yeah.
I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am. I'm fast as fuck, boy.
That's my old dog. He'd look at you and then be like, "Guess what?"
Senpai.
Oh no! The purple one. Oh, you don't have to. Wait, purple one. Yeah.
I don't think you understand how fast I really am. Oh, it gets me every time.
I think Braden's talking about the transients.
Every time I talk about mixing, I'm like, I'm fast as fuck, boy.
Yeah, no. I had somebody recently say, "It's like, oh, I didn't know how long the mixing process is." I'm like, it's not. It's really not. But if you keep changing things up, it's just gonna take longer. Yeah. But it's funny. Like somebody told me, he's like, yeah, mixing my last song took about 3 months. I was like, who are you working with? Like, they should be able to like mix in like 2 to 4 hours if it's not that big of a session.
There you go.
Yeah.
But let's see. Big sessions. What's the most you've ever taken on a mix for V1? V1.
For a V1, what's the longest?
Yeah, the longest you've ever taken for V1. You could split it up over multiple days, but until you delivered a V1. And not because it was due to a mistake, like you mixed it totally wrong and you had to
Does
restart.
having the producer or the artist with you count, or just you on your own delivering something that you confidently said this is V1?
For the sake of argument, let's just keep it that. No extension.
The
due to
longest
somebody
I've
else
taken,
on a personal level.
12 hours. If it was a record, like I remember this, there was a record I really, really enjoyed. Like the moment I heard it is the moment I wanted to be a part of it. And because of that, I put a lot more love and attention into it, but I took a lot of breaks because I knew that the timeline was pressing. They didn't really have the biggest budget, and I wasn't trying to take a week or two in revisions back and forth and all that. So I did as much as I could in one day. So I started around like 10 a.m. one day, and I ended around like 9:30, maybe 10 the same day.
So 12 hours plus breaks.
12 hours including breaks, yeah.
So what about not including breaks? Did it end up being about like 8?
I took a break every hour for 15 minutes, so we can, if let's say it was 10 hours, it's 150 minutes. We'll say about 3 hours, so about like 7 hours, 8 hours.
I think I was going to say the same thing. I think the longest I've ever taken on a single song is like 8 hours before a V1.
Yeah.
But like on average, I take anywhere between 2 to 4 now.
Yeah, that's kind of the average. Same here. That's why I always like talk to people nowadays first. Like, people can book me if they want to pay my flat rate on my website and stuff. But usually when I try to help people out, if there's any level of negotiation going on first, I try to actually have a full conversation ahead of time of like, what is delivering files? Are you really done with production? Are you really done with vocal harmonies and all that? Because like, if I start receiving files later, I think I'm gonna take your advice and just have a later fee for that. Just because there seems to be confusion out there. Not necessarily with everybody, just when people are starting out, they're kind of learning what it is to be at different stages or how to definitively move on to the next thing, you know? If I ever had a project, no, actually, you know what? There was one project where by the time we actually got to a mutual V1, it probably took like a month when I had the producer sitting with me, because he wanted to do 3 days a week sit downs for 9 months to finish an album. The album had a total of like maybe 7 to 9 actual songs, and it averaged out to about a month on each song to completion. 3 to 4 days. No, because he was micromanaging the entire way, and he was overthinking.
That I know?
No, this project released 2017.
Okay, so this is before we met.
Yeah, this is before we met, but he micromanaged the entire part to the entire process instead of just saying like, hey, let's just focus on the sound, and then new drums got added on later on. New this got added on. Like you know, they were starting to blurring. Yeah, they started blurring the lines of what is mixing, and that overcomplicated the process. You know, and that's why like I'm a lot more. If I'm gonna give a discount nowadays, it's got to be definitively my job and my position now. If they're gonna afford my rate and say, hey, we added new drums, it's like, all right, I really don't mind, but after a certain point, like it's gonna be an added fee on top of that.
Okay, so Pixel says, ever since I've started using Pro Tools, it's been taking me longer to finish a song. I really miss macros and the ability to literally set up sends and groups with the press of a button. So a couple things. There's a lot of quick keys on Pro Tools, and including grouping.
Yeah.
And group sends, and that one's like a click and holding down type thing.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of, in the new Pro Tools that just came out, you can actually customize your own macros.
Yeah.
Or you can be like me, a super nerd, and build your own keyboards, and where I have these 2 buttons are macro buttons.
Or you could be like me, a different type of super nerd, which Apple already has macro settings. You could have just programmed them on the computer. With that said, everybody's workflow is different, so no matter what DAW you use, you should probably create your own macros if you have a certain way you like to work. For me, it was the F keys. Pro Tools has their own commands for that, but you could disable those and then program your own using Apple. So if you actually wanted to say like playlist, you could do F1. If you wanted to do bulk record, you could do F2.
You could change quick keys now with the new.
No, I know, but it was already available through Apple.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, Apple always allowed people to create macros and use the F row for it.
Yeah, so no, it does take time. Switching to Pro Tools is never easy.
No, it's never.
It's never easy. Yeah, Lou uses Stream Deck. I really use Mac. I really miss macros and the ability to literally set up some. So here's another thing. So if you want to set up a quick bus from a send, you right click on an open send. You go scroll to the bottom and click on New Track. It'll give you a minute pop-up will come up. You can rename the bus, so it'll change the input, the name of the input and output, and it'll create a bus that's already routed from that send in a single click.
And if you go into your I/O settings, you can actually say if you're using a master bus and you don't want things getting sent to the 1 and 2, you could actually assign the default bus that new tracks get sent to. So if you want everything always being sent to your master bus and not your 1 and 2 out, no worries.
Yeah, so that's what I do. So my default is set to mix bus. So I always have a mix bus. So
just in case you missed the actual bus,
Yeah, every time I create a new track, it'll automatically route to the mix bus. So I don't have to manually change the routing. It's pretty flexible. The reason why I like Pro Tools is because of the editing quick keys and just generally editing and quick keys on Pro Tools. And more importantly, like I think that's because I'm used to it and I'm fast as fuck boy on Pro Tools. But generally speaking, like Pro Tools is not the best DAW. It's not
It's
the
not.
most. It's not the most.
And it's
I'm
also
not gonna
the
argue
least
with that.
cost efficient now.
It's so expensive.
It's the least cost efficient all since its inception, but now it's especially the least cost effective because you can't just buy the license anymore, which I only have access to 2 perpetual licenses now available. I hit up my dealers and everybody that I used to get them from. They're like, yeah, I can only spare X amount, and now I only have access to 2 more. Like, that's it. Avid's done with perpetual license. It's going to be subscription only, and that subscription is expensive.
And then so
Its
also
days are limited.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think, if I were you, the only reason why you want to learn Pro Tools is because you want to work in the industry on a professional level.
Yeah.
Meaning that if you're owning your own studio and you work out of your own studio, you do not have to use Pro Tools. But if you're planning on like living in LA, moving to LA or Nashville and working out of other people's studio constantly and freelancing, you got to learn Pro Tools. If you want to run a big console, you probably got to learn Pro Tools. Because there are things, Pro Tools especially excels or is like the only option that works, no latency with large console format type of recording and mixing
Yeah.
setups, which like no other companies even offer that, which is why it's still popular because all of the big famous recordings have no other options than to use Pro Tools.
Yeah. You know, the one thing that really makes me sad still, though, is why do I have to manually program the insert delay? Why isn't there just a plugin for it like Logic has? Like, I know how to do it. It takes me like 2 seconds, sure, but like, it's so annoying.
No, that's
it's
just
really
petty.
annoying.
That's just petty on Pro Tools part. That's a really easy.
Yeah,
algorithm
everybody
to
else
do.
has already figured this out. Like, why?
So the thing is, if you use a hardware insert, so you go to inserts and then click on your outputs 1 or like let's say 3 and 4, right? So you have a stereo compressor that's going out of 3 and 4 and back into 3 and 4. So it's a hardware insert, right? If you do this in any other DAW, it's like a plugin. So for example, in Logic, it's a plugin. Or Studio One, it's a plugin. You say output, outboard. You click on 3 and 4 and input 3 and 4, and then it says tap to sync. So like it sends a little blip through the gear, and as soon as it returns, it automatically generates how much latency or delay,
and it's sample accurate.
like sample accurate latency or delay it is adding by going through outboard gear.
Yeah.
And it's automatic.
Yeah.
Pro Tools does not have that. Every other freaking DAW has that, but
Yeah.
Pro Tools does not have that. It's you have to like do math.
The only reason that Pro Tools doesn't have it originally is because the hardware would automatically do the calculation. It's part of the HDX card and HD native card. It actually does it all in real time. But if you were running native, it didn't have it. And that's where like a lot of people are like, okay, cool. They gave us the ability to calibrate it ourselves. But here's the stupid thing. It switches every time you go to a different sample rate. So 44.1 blips are different timing than 48 blips. They're different than 96 blips. So if you were switching between sample rates, you had to manually do it for every time you switched, which is annoying.
I will say though that I do prefer. I heavily prefer Pro Tools GUI as far as like
Yeah.
I can see all of the inserts and stems and the edit window all in one page.
Yeah.
Where, for example, for like Logic or Studio One, I have to look at either the mixer window to see what plugins are on what, or I have to
Click on
click
the track.
on each one, and it
Yeah.
only shows one channel at a time.
That's where the X view, where you just tap X, because I actually had to mix an album in Logic once due to client preference. If you tap X, you can see the edit window and the mix window below, but then you only get like half of each, so you have
that's
to
what I'm talking
constantly be
about.
like scrolling up and down. It's really annoying.
Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. So I don't
Yeah.
like that. I like how I'm able to see everything in one window.
Yeah.
That's just how I prefer it. And I do like the search function, so I can like tap insert and start typing whatever plugin I want. So it's like I'm super fast with like pulling up plugins because. Do you guys believe that there's different sounds to 44.1, 48, 96, etc.?
Yes and no. To be honest, it really depends on your converter. And
We both
the way-
started on different DAWs, Linhart. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah. It really depends on your converter style too, because certain converter companies will actually do the sampling difference with an anti-aliasing chip that is. Go ahead. That will move with whatever sample rate you choose, meaning that the anti-aliasing chip will just make sure that you're not sampling anything past the actual reference point. So if it's 44.1, it's going to sample anything that's 22 and up with a little bit of headroom on that one. So 22 kilohertz would have like a anti-aliasing chip. It's almost like a brick wall low pass filter. And yeah, it would just make sure that your converter's not over tripping and all that kind of stuff and whatever. You wouldn't get any kind of like aliasing and blah blah. In a nutshell, some converters will actually then take that reference point, since it doesn't actually help human hearing at all, and it will sample within that. They'll do like 96 within 20 to 22. And that's great. Then you can actually hear a difference. But the whole point of going to 48 is not to make 20 to 22 better. It's actually to extend the range so that you can actually capture more audio in those ranges. So by the time you're at 192, you're capturing frequencies up to like 386. 96 kilohertz, right? But the human ear, realistically, by the time you're my age, 30, can't really hear past 16 unless you're really lucky and took really good care of your ears. So what would the point of doing that be? It's, once again, if the converter company actually started doing that within the actual range, then you can actually hear the difference, and it adds points to the actual sampling. But once again, that's usually not the case until you get to like much more expensive converters. So is there an actual audible difference? Yeah, there is. It just really depends who you're, whose products you're using. But I wouldn't overthink it. Most of what you're listening to nowadays is still 44, 24-bit, at least now. But CD standard was always 44/16.
No. Streaming is too most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. Nowadays, like iTunes is doing
unless
24.
It specifically says
48/24 for it. Yeah, like Tidal is 48/24.
Well, only the
master.
There's like the master record, and then there's HQ. So HQ, I think, is 48/24. It can go higher if it's on master mode and they mastered it in different.
But if you're on like regular or like low bandwidth, what do they call it? Low data, or I forget what the setting's called. But that one's 44/16. So does it really matter? At the end of the day, it really depends. If you're doing live instruments, I think it matters for like cymbals, because they'll add points on a good converter to the top end, and top end is usually harder to recreate at lower sample rates. But if you're using something like an Apollo, the anti-aliasing chip isn't fixed. It's actually altering its position, but it's not adding points in between, so it's going to sound the same. If you're doing something like MyTech converters, MyTech actually has a fixed anti-aliasing chip or links, so you actually are sampling more within the actual human hearing range. So it makes a difference depending on who you have.
Yes, and something that I learned from Ian Shepherd's The Mastering Show, he said that financially speaking, it is actually impossible to make a converter or an interface that can convert audio in all sample rates equally. Meaning, it would cost about $50,000 to make a converter that can produce sounds at 44.1 at the same quality as 48 kilohertz. Meaning that like most of the sample rates are not going to be
downsample.
So for example, with Apollo, I did a test on my Apollo. There's actually some noise. It's silent. If you hear anything, it's causing some sort of distortion. And I forgot, you should listen to the episode on Ian Shepherd's Master Show, and he'll give you a link to that silent noise. If you hear anything, that means something is distorting. And I did a test with that noise on my interface, and on the Universal Audio Apollo, 48K was actually the cleanest and best sample rate. It caused the least amount of distortion.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done that quite yet with my interface here, but I assume it'd be the similar thing, either 44.1 or 48. Yes, 96, but you could do 96 or 192 or whatever.
Yeah.
But those sample rates will have potentially lesser quality to them and more distortion to them because of the way that the converters are made.
Yeah.
So it's like just because it's a feature doesn't mean that it's built around to be the best sounding.
Yeah. Not only that, like, let's honestly ask ourselves, is it really worth going to 96? Like, once again, if you have a variable anti-aliasing chip, you're talking about extension of frequency. I can't hear 40 kilohertz. My dog might, but I'm not hearing that. So realistically speaking, if you're going past 48, it's not that it's overkill or unnecessary. You just have to do it for a definitive reason, and knowing that you're going to get a definitive end result that you're actually looking for. Like, I love my Lynx converter. It can go to 192. I'm always at 48.
So I have a really, really good hearing still. Maybe it's because I'm young. I'm still losing frequencies every day, but according to about a month and a half ago, I could still hear about 16K.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying when you were in the bathroom.
Which is like the highest that I don't think many other people can hear 16K.
I'm still there, but that's because I wear earplugs anytime anything's loud. Or if I'm in a session with a client, have you seen like how I just walk away sometimes from my session? If it gets to a certain loudness, I walk away and I just wait until they turn it back down. It's good practice. Builds respect with you and your clients because they keep seeing you walk away and they're like, why does he keep walking away? You guys are too loud. I don't want to kill your vibe, but I also don't want to lose my hearing. So decide.
So I used to be able to hear 17K about 6 months ago. So within the last 6 months, I lost a whole K, which is interesting. I wonder. Maybe it was like
I mentioned earlier it comes
with
with age. To be honest.
No. Everybody loses it with age, which is so funny, right? That like we won't talk about age. But
no. I know where you're going with it, but like, let's be honest. It becomes much more evident that it doesn't really matter how amazing your top end is. Like, focus on your mid range. If like most of the best records that we hear out there usually are either like bright or dark or something. The top end is always variable, but the mid range information is always pristine.
I will say that like if you play your music from SoundCloud or with a really low kilobit information MP3 or so there's a few other like compression type things, playback compression type things where I'm like I can tell and it sounds bad.
Oh, like YouTube?
No, I can't tell on 1080p YouTube. Like I can't tell super bad. But if it's like
I can hear it, but
below,
just on the transient. Like they did a really good job on updating it, but you can still.
I haven't done like 1080p versus Spotify versus like master file. So
I'll say this: like you can definitely hear it between 4K and 1080 on YouTube, and you can definitely like wildly hear it on 720 versus 1080. But yeah, anytime I'm on YouTube, I really hope that there's a 4K option. Like it sounds really different. Like any you listen to Snarky Puppy, like when I listen to Lingus or something like that, Delu Kirano. Oh my god. Elijah. It's Lige?
I think it's Lige, right?
Oh my god. Like I'm like reading that and I'm just kind of like floored. But no, yeah, honestly, like oh my god, that took me so left that I lost it. Moving on. Congratulations, Lies. You just caught me off. Oh yeah, it's Snarky. But no, some playback platforms, you can hear their like compression artifacts and all that kind of stuff, but YouTube has actually updated theirs pretty well. 1080, like you could usually just hear like, you know how you can hear compression on the Strauss? That's where you'd probably hear it the most, but sonically speaking, like it's pretty intact. Yeah. I don't know. Love their sets. Yeah, honestly, they do a good job. I actually use them as a reference point for a lot of like live instrument mixing. Not all the time, depends on the genre and stuff, but like I really like them for jazz music. I really like their mixing.
I'm in a situation where I'm having to do a ton of vocal tuning work. Should I charge extra for this? It's almost a day's work.
Yes. Absolutely, every time, and charge per track. And if they don't like it, then they can do it themselves.
Let's take a step back as well and say that if you're already working on something and you didn't tell them that you charge extra for it beforehand, then no, you should not charge extra.
Oh,
okay.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
As long as you tell them beforehand it is extra.
Yeah.
Then yeah, absolutely.
Or before you actually start saying like, you know what, I wasn't aware of you needing this. On this one specifically.
No. I think that's too late.
No. That's too late. No. Like you could say, I agree to mix it, but I was not aware that you needed vocal tuning as well. I do charge extra for that. Would you like me to do it? If not, I can recommend you to somebody who does that. I don't think that's an issue because I think agreeing to the actual job you agreed to is one thing. Being surprised by another job is a different
that's
thing.
Fair. That's fair. That's good.
Yeah. Now, just like you said, if you started doing it, and then you're going to charge them more later without them knowing that, then no, that's not okay. You already agreed. But
there you go.
If you openly communicated it and you only found out after, you need to openly communicate it before you start doing it and start charging extra. And if you don't want to do it, you can always subcontract. Yeah.
Like I have people that do it for me. Most of the time I do it myself. It's pretty minimal. I'm really good at vocal production and vocal tuning. But I hate it to death. So
yeah, I'm really good at vocal tuning. Like I do a lot of the records that I do that end up on radio. Almost every time have me doing Melodyne work on it, including rappers.
That's again. I'm really, really good at Melodyne, and most people will want me to do it.
But you don't want to do it.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah, I don't want to do it either, but I'm kind of nitpicky on it because I like it to not be audible. So if you know somebody, or if any of you listening are really good at it, send me some examples because I don't mind subcontracting. I just have a very, very specific ear for it because if I can tell, then my client can tell, and it's not good enough.
There's been a couple clients that I work with that this is frustrating where they're just so tone deaf.
Yeah.
that I have to pick a melody for them.
Yeah, and do
I've
it in
had to do-
Melodyne. Yeah.
Yeah, like they're not like close to a melody and I'm just like fixing it. No, like I'm deciding the melody on their behalf.
Yeah. I've been asked before, like, why my autotune is always the second insert, and it's because Melodyne comes first.
Yeah, I do Melodyne
Yeah.
and Autotune as well.
Yeah, because I want them to have the sound that they had. But if it's like, yo, like, autotune is not the issue. It's the way you sing it. Like, autotune's trying to
Autotune
help
sounds
you.
way more smooth and way more human than Melodyne ever will.
Yeah. Yeah. But if you use Melodyne on the way into autotune, you can wildly improve the performance.
Amen.
Wildly improve. You could also destroy it depending on how you're using Melodyne.
Yeah, no, as far as I'm like those specific examples, no matter how many times I tell them to redo it, there's a few clients for sure that like I keep telling them to redo it because they can get close enough, or at least I can get sections and then kind of copy and paste them together. But no, there's a few where no matter how many takes it is, they will never get it.
And yeah, you're right. Straight tripping. Once again, still love your name. Pro Tools does not have ARA. But you know, Melodyne also has a free version. Autotune Pro also has it, and that's pretty cheap.
What's ARA?
It's basically like Melodyne.
Oh.
Yeah, like Cubase is where I started, and Cubase actually had a partnership with Melodyne at the time. I believe my understanding was. That's how I got into it because I'm not saying names or anything bad necessarily, but, you know, I had a singer that just, you know, we just started for the first time. We were 18, and he needed some help vocally. And that's how I got into vocal tuning and seeing the power of it. But, yeah, Logic has it built in. I think Ableton has one built in. But there's a ton of software out there, like Waves Intune has one. But have you actually tried Waves Intune? It causes noise.
Oh, yes, I
don't recommend it. Like, it actually changes a little bit of the audio, but more than that, every time I've used it, I noticed that like there's a constant issue around like 1K where it generates frequencies as you're tuning it. Like, it creates a synthetic tone.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's also okay. So, the question is, any thoughts on mixing spoken words? So this is actually super duper easy.
Yeah.
Think about like radio. With spoken word, there's a couple things that are really, really important. One is if there's background noises, if there's music in the background, their job is not to be heard. Their job is to, if in between blank spaces, openings between reading, whether it's an audiobook or a podcast, that they cover the blank space. So like there should be no dead air on radio, right? So the music isn't there to be heard while you're talking. The music is there to be heard only when the person stops talking. So make sure that it's low enough.
Yeah.
Make sure that at no point you should automate or compress the vocals, so at no point the listener ever has to turn up or down the volume to hear a guest or to hear their own person. So you'll notice that our vocals are compressed enough that and volume matched enough where Lou and I, that nobody at any point will have to turn down the volume or up the volume when listening to the podcast. This is actually super important. And in podcasts, statistically speaking, people will sign off if they ever have to turn up and down the vocal.
Yep.
All right, lastly, for spoken word, as far as like for sung versus spoken, for spoken word, keep a lot of the low end in there. Make it sound very intimate, a lot of low end. Remember, radio voice is very low. It's very deep and has a lot of low end. Not rumbly, but definitely a lot of chest to it. It makes it feel more intimate. It makes it feel precise or more human. The only reason why we take out low end in a vocal in a mix typically is so we can have, so it doesn't take space of other vocalists, other instruments in a mix. So functionally, yeah, it should have a lot more low end in there compared to like a pop or a hip hop mix.
Now, honestly speaking, a really good tool for just if you have multiple people on a spoken word kind of thing. Let's say that it's like a comedy album or something and everything's recorded in a studio and you're trying to figure out a balance between different people. One trick that I've actually found to be really useful is use a loudness meter on a send, but filter out the low end and the top end. Just filter out anything below 200 hertz and anything above 6K. And just focus on if the mid-range actually feels the same loudness or not, if you're having a hard time like using your ear for that. just because not every system's going to have a ton of low end, and low end sometimes could be perceived as louder if somebody has more of a baritone versus like a female, softer voice or something. Just focus on the mid range as far as loudness. And once again, if you're having a hard time with your ear, filter out low end, filter out top end, and just use a meter and see if you can get similar loofs on the actual mid range. That's pretty much it. Ableton doesn't. I feel bad for Ableton users then, because I thought it did. Ableton has so many features that if it was possible to efficiently and, just keep it there, efficiently mix in Ableton, I actually wouldn't mind Ableton, but the user interface is a little bit clunky. Yeah, fire gem right there. Thank you. No worries. Sorry, I'm speaking like I'm monotoned. I'm sorry, guys. I have apologized to DK in the past because DK will tell me something so exciting and I sound not excited even when I am. I know he's yawning right now, but even now, DK could emote way better than I can. Yeah, see? There you go. If you ever want a friend that you can't tell how they feel, I am your friend.
Oh no! Son of a bitch! Oh shit!
That's actually what the entire barbecue this past Saturday sounded like. Dude, was that not the loudest Smash, battle ever? Yeah. Basically, so DK came over to a barbecue I was having for my birthday at my family's place. I basically made an open bet. I have 4 friends that are really good. One of them didn't want to be part of it, so I made a bet saying I will give. Oh my god.
Oh no, keep going. That's just background noise.
Oh my god. That's the yada yada that's it. Yeah, when that's playing, that's yada yada.
Yada that's it.
That's right.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny. I basically created a $100 bet to anybody. Everybody was welcome to take the challenge. If you could beat 3 of my friends sequentially, if you lost to one of them after beating one, it reset the wins. I would give $100 to anybody that could beat all 3. DK actually came the closest on his first round. He actually
beat one of them.
Yeah.
No.
Did you?
I beat one of them, and I barely lost the second one.
Yeah, the second one was almost like a nail biter, because I was watching that whole thing and I was like, oh my god, DK might actually take the $100. And I even said it's not limited to one person winning. One person can win once, but if 5 people won it, I'm giving away $500.
So nobody won, right?
Nobody won.
Yeah.
Not a single person took the money.
Dope.
Yeah.
Oh well. I've been playing a lot of Skyrim recently. I just bought Skyrim a few weeks ago.
How's that going?
Really good. It's my first time I've ever played Skyrim. I played a little bit before. So it's my first official playthrough. It's actually really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy it.
Story-wise or
I put in way
gameplay?
too many hours already. Gameplay is fine, but the story of it and all the different missions and whatnot, I feel like I'm never going to finish playing it because there's so many missions and side quests.
Yeah, see, that's how Monster Hunter was for me, and I had to recognize how much I was playing Monster Hunter and then walk away because I looked at my Switch and it said I had logged in 800 hours, and I was like, that's way too many. I don't even play that much Pokemon, and I'm going to get a Pokemon tattoo. What the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's what race do you get? I'm a wood elf. I know, random, right? I don't ever have to worry about poison and disease, and I'm good at archery. I'm a sneaky boy. Wait till you learn about modding it. I can't. I don't think I can because I'm on the Switch. Maybe I can.
I don't think you should. You'll lose the love.
But yeah, I don't think I'm able to mod because I'm not playing on PC. You'll never stop playing. Yeah, the modding. No, I've heard that there's a big modding thing. In fact, one of my friends used to mod it as well. Because I got into Skyrim. So I've played Oblivion before, because I played it at my friend's house on his computer.
Mm-hmm.
So just briefly, my main was an Argonian. Is that the lizard one? Wait till you get Daedric armor. I'm also a light armor character. Does Daedric armor have light armor?
I'm not gonna lie, but the lizards, yes.
So I'm excited. So I had Daedric armor when I was playing at my friend's house in Oblivion. So what's the best light armor setup you can have?
Dude, this conversation is so much like Monster Hunter.
No,
it's so much like Monster Hunter because there is also heavy armor and light armor too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm curious to learn more because I want to know how close and similar they are.
So Dragonbone is the best light armor. Hold on.
Wait, there's Dragon Bone and Monster Hunter 2. Oh my god, which came first? I don't know. I don't really care. I just want to know more.
I'm looking this up now. Also, hopefully we'll be having Leslie come on soon. He texted me saying that he was on the phone with Atlantic and he'll be coming on soon, but it's been a lot longer than we were hoping for. So hold on, let's see. Hide armor, shrouded armor set.
Dude, the armor sets are
Dawn
cool.
Guard, scaled, Imperial light armor, Nightingale armor set. That's what I'm using right now is the Nightingale.
That one looks the coolest so far.
Guildmaster's armor set. Chitin armor set. Interesting. Glass armor set. I do have the glass armor set as well. Stahlrim armor set. This is so weird. Off topic. Elden Rings fans. I haven't played Elden Rings yet.
Ian, our studio staff member, he plays Elden Ring, and he technically is actually playing a game for me. What is it called? I forgot. It's like Elden Ring, but my friend's been trying to get me to play it for years, and yeah, it's way too hard. From the moment you start the game, you're already on hard mode. Even if you're on easy mode, like you have a boss fight.
It's really crazy.
Yeah, I forget the name of the game.
Loot around level 35. Okay, so but it'll also be included in loot around level 35. Level 80 smithing and the ebony smithing perk are a must to craft one from scratch. We're talking about Stahlrim light armor. Okay, so dragon scale armor set. Finally, the best light armor in the game is undoubtedly the dragon scale armor. If the Daedric kind had a light armor, it would probably be something better than this one.
Oh, so Daedric doesn't
But
have
unfortunately, light armor wearers will have to make do. This armor can rarely be found in loot, which is why crafting it is usually the better option. Really. At smithing level 100 and the dragon armor perk unlocked, the player will be able to craft a full set using dragon scale, which is so I should start saving dragon scale. With a shield included, the set rates at about 111, making it decent even for heavy armor standards, and is such the ultimate and best light armor set in Skyrim. I did not know that. Look up Dragon Priest bosses. Is this in Skyrim? Lou, you boys need to get good at Rocket League, and I'm going to show up for the smoke. Oh, I'm good at Rocket League.
I'm not.
good at Rocket League. I'm like a plat 2 or 3.
I think I have an
like,
account.
I'm not the best, but I'm decent. I'm better than your average player. I'm a
He's
plat
better than
3.
me.
I'm like a plat 2 or 3 on Rocket League if you want to play. Although I used to play like every night, like just like 20, 30 minutes, a few games. But now I have not been playing recently.
Yeah, I saw which Pokemon, if any specific one, am I going to get tattooed. To be honest, I actually, this past week, I kind of altered what I was going to do. I want Gengar, if I'm going to go specific. One, he's purple. Two, he's an asshole, and I love that about him. No joke. No, literally, like if you look up Gengar, Haunter, and Ghastly, they're all just pranksters. They're all afterlife pranksters. They just go around and, have fun, making fun of people and pranking them. It's amazing. But more honestly, as far as like my recent development, as far as like what I want to get, did you ever play Mega Man?
Only Legends on PS1.
Yeah.
Mega Man Legends.
Growing up, my favorite game before Pokemon was Mega Man X. And that was Super Nintendo specifically. And the first system I ever had was Super Nintendo. And the only game I ever wanted to play was Mega Man X. But I actually never owned a copy. So anytime I got to sit in front of a Mega Man X game, anywhere I went, I'd be in front of it for hours. And I would actually help people collect all the armor sets and all that. I had like my save codes and everything, because like every playthrough had a different generated code after every game you fought, just to kind of like, it was almost like a save file, but the game couldn't do save files. So I had a notebook full of my save file codes. So if you like turned off your Super Nintendo or it froze, you'd have a code to go back to where you left off. If you didn't remember the code, you had to start from scratch. But my idea is to get like the different games that were like relevant to me as a kid, and actually have the Pokemon wear the different armor sets. So, like, have Squirtle wear the Mega Man X upgraded armor.
You can do that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so, like, in Mega Man, when you start, you have just the basic armor set, and then as you progress through the game, you try to get, like, the ultimate armor, the X armor, the Zero armor, and, like, the Zero armor is red, so I would probably have, like, Charmander wearing that. And there wasn't a green Mega Man, at least, well, not in the X series starting out in X1 or X2. But like if I could find like different things, like maybe I want like Charmander wearing like the Dragon Ball Z outfit, because it's actually orange, it would make sense. And instead of doing like Kamehameha, he's just doing flamethrower or something. I don't know, but like blending it all. But Pokemon was always reigning king for me. But I would want it to be like have influences from different things.
There you go. Anyone
Yeah.
playing Apex Legends?
No, sorry.
I want to be. I don't have a PC.
I have Apex.
And I'm not going to be playing. I'm not going to. Is Apex on Switch?
It's on Switch. I have it on my
is.
Switch, and I'll be honest. I tried getting into it at first, but I think I was too distracted by other things to really, really dive in.
I have not played Apex. No, I think I have played it once on the Switch.
Oh
I
my
should
god,
download
that's
it again.
hilarious! I was so intimidated. Like 20 minutes into Apex, I never tried playing it again. Like, how bad was it?
Just a scary game. Leslie just texted and said 2 more minutes, so hopefully it'll be soon.
Yeah.
Sorry for the wait, y'all. Sorry for the wait. We're gonna have
Stressful.
we're gonna have a good episode here. Thanks for sticking around for so long. Usually we would have recorded our first episode and would have already started our second episode by now, but it is what it is. We're really, really excited to have Leslie on the show. We're really grateful for the time. He's just finishing up some work. He'll be on soon. So right now is a great time to ask any questions. So if there's any questions that you want us to ask Leslie during the streaming of this podcast episode, please let us know right now. Or otherwise, we won't really take any questions during the stream. So please let us know ASAP.
Now, I do have a question. How did you decide on Leslie for mixing with Masters? Or mix with the Masters, whatever it was called. DK?
Why did I decide Leslie?
Mm-hmm.
Good question.
Like, of all the options available and at the state you were in, would you say you were already a big Leslie fan? You were already doing a lot of research on
So I
him?
think
Or
it
of
was
the
a-
available, you saw him as the best option?
So, quite frankly, no, I didn't know who he was very well before.
Okay.
Which is,
It's not to say whether it was a reckless decision or not, but something attracted you.
I think it was mostly because I was super into hip hop and he was a big influencer in the hip hop world
Okay.
for engineering. And especially because everybody else was like Andrew Sheps and Chris Lord Alge, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to rock, dude. I don't even listen to rock myself. So I wanted someone
Yeah.
modern and within the pop hip hop realm. And I knew he had worked on some big records.
Yeah. I still want to see
It
an
was a gut
American
feeling
one.
thing. It was a gut feeling thing. I wasn't planning on doing any mix with the Masters at all, but I had a gut feeling that I should hit him up.
Isn't that how
See if
life
those-
works? A gut feeling usually turns out to be a
Yeah,
life-changing
and then,
experience.
Yeah, exactly. And then it was also just timing. It was summer intern or spring internship, so I got internship credit for it. Not that it was necessary because I never finished school. So, but I did get like internship credits for it as well. So it's just like timing of it all. I think timing played the biggest factor.
Okay. Yeah. Nate on the track just asked a really cool question. Just got an assistant gig with a big mixer. How do I show that I have attention to detail and good work ethic? Honestly speaking, Nate, realistically speaking, the thing that I've noticed is if you're asked to do anything, you actually execute on it. Within the time limit that's actually been assigned. You actually ask questions if you don't know something, because there's nothing wrong with asking and admitting that you don't know something. But if you're going to start making mistakes because you don't know something, part of that work ethic question is okay there. Part of that question is like, are you willing to admit when you don't know something, or are you just going to double down and try to figure it out? There's nothing wrong with trying to figure it out, but if you start causing delays because of it, then you're not paying attention to the detail in front of you, which is your timeline. It's better to just have humility throughout your throughout your time there, just so that they know, hey, I'm serious about this. I want to learn more. But like, if I make a mistake, please, let me know what a mistake is. I'll correct it moving forward, and just don't repeat those mistakes. It's okay to apologize and all that, but if you keep repeating the same mistakes, you're not paying attention.
how do you show that you have attention to detail and good work ethic? I don't think it's a decision that you make. I think when you make a bunch of decisions, it turns into a personality, and I think at that point, it's
Yeah.
either in your personality or it's not. Because if
Yeah.
it is, it'll show through over time.
Yeah.
If it's not, no matter how many times you choose to be paying attention to detail and having good ethic in the moment, your true self will come out. So
Yeah.
just all you can do is continue to be the better person you are, and that'll show through.
Yeah. Honestly speaking, like it's kind of funny because like as you say that, it's like if,
Hello, Leslie. Are you there? Hold on. I think we don't see you and we don't hear you. Is it working? Can you hear us?
I see an icon. But
You
I
hear me?
don't-
Check 1 2.
Oh, I can hear you.
We can hear you.
All right. Okay. Hold on. Why is my camera not working? That's weird.
Have you recently yelled at it?
What's up,
No, I'm
Ronald
gonna yell
Chavez
at it
Music?
now.
Yes, we were trying to collect questions for people that we can ask you during the stream, during the episode.
Oh, nice.
So so someone said, this is actually a really great question for you, Leslie. Someone said, just got an assistant gig with a big mixer. How do I show that I have the attention to detail and good work ethic?
Big factor in that is just showing up on time. First of all, is huge. Attention to detail is every day you pick up on something from the day before. So attention to detail is if you notice they order the same type of food, or if you notice they do the same thing, be prepared with that thing the following day. Or, that's a huge way to show that you're paying attention to what's going on. Why can I not get my camera working? I'm like really pissed off right now.
I think I see you like
Wait,
trying
let me
to do something.
let me sign out and come back in and see if it works. Hold on.
Yep. All right. I think next time. I think to test that, Leslie once said, I heard him say something about having interns go and grab some chicken nuggets for him. I don't know if I've ever told you about this.
No.
This is actually it's funny. I'll just have him describe it. See if he remembers it. I don't know if that was like a one-time thing or if that's something he regularly does or something. But he just mentioned the story about how he one of the things that he determines whether or not he likes someone that's helping him out is he does a little test with chicken nuggets run. I don't know if it's a one-time thing or not, but
What's funny is Ian has a different way that he showed me attention to detail, which was something I didn't really ask for or ever realize would be a good way of checking. Around the same time each day, he would ask me, he's like, hey, do you want me to go get you food? Because he would realize I never eat. And it's probably a good idea for me to eat. And he would actually remind me, he's like, it's about that time where you should probably get a meal. I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I should take a break. I should take a break.
Crossbone T. What is that? Hold on, have I talked about it before?
Get all the sauces.
Get all the sauces.
Wait.
Have I talked about this before?
Are we talking about fire sauce?
I would love if you guys could ask Leslie the bit about clocking to do a DNA when printing in his mix or something like. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
Oh, that's right. He's actually a big clock guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could talk a little bit about that. I think that's a great idea.
Big clock energy.
You brought nuggets the other day. Yeah, I did totally bring chicken nuggets to the studio the other day for lunch. One of the we were talking about health or something like that as I was munching on some chicken nuggets that we bought at Sam's Club or Costco the other day.
Gotcha. Oh man, it's funny. I told you about the program. I've interviewed more personal trainers. There's more people that are actually down to work on this health program idea. But it was kind of funny. One of them asked me, they're like, so just out of curiosity, being that you're kind of leading the whole on this, why wouldn't you teach the class on it? I'm like, if you saw me right now, would you say that I'm any kind of example image of health? No.
Well, and yeah, no, personal training and knowing what exercises to do and how to do them and coaching people to do the right form definitely takes experience.
Yeah, I need to go see a chiropractor. I need to get an MRI.
Know.
I'm not in physical shape to be of any service
and
to
I don't know
anyone.
how to do workouts properly.
Yeah.
I know how to do them improperly enough to get in shape. Although recently, funny story, This is my body in a nutshell. As I get older, I have realized that if I'm eating snacks at night, or if I eat past dinner, or right before I go to bed, it does affect me.
You the next morning.
Not just the next morning, but like over time, like the last 3 months, I started having a bad habit of munching, and I've gotten a little pocket belly, and so I've stopped eating late at night. I don't do snacks anymore at all, and then I do sit-ups every day, and I've already lost like half of it. And so the crazy thing is, if it was 3-4 years ago, I would have lost it all in a matter of like a week, which is crazy. But like the fact that I've been doing it for like a couple weeks and I haven't lost it all is like.
I'd argue that was 2 years ago too, because when we first started the studio, when we started getting into like exercise more, I noticed that your changes were much more evident, much faster than mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with strength, like of course, right?
I mean, part of it is you're also 2 years younger than me. Hey, Leslie's in.
What up, yo? Your camera looks amazing.
808s and supply crates.
Hold on, I don't think we can hear you though.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Boom. How about now?
Yeah,
yes, you can.
There it is.
There we go.
He hit the talkback button.
Yo, that bokeh and the camera and the lens, it looks great.
Yo, I like the look of your space. I'm just gonna say it. I'm in awe. Like I'm not even looking at you. I'm looking at everything else. I mean, you've got a glowing smile, but you've also got a glowing room.
That's what's up. Appreciate it.
So welcome. We'll start recording in a second here, but before we do, by the way, Leslie, this is my business partner Lou, and co-host.
What's up?
What up?
And the podcast is pretty straightforward. It's max 30 to 60 minutes, so it can be 15 minutes. I doubt it, but.
No, it's all good. I got time. I'm good.
And I would love so this is less of a podcast that's about you. I'm sure that it will be, but we're going to ask a bunch of questions, and like this is going to be like a platform for you to teach. So so like we'll ask questions, we'll kind of cater it and whatnot. We have a lot of stuff and a lot of questions already gathered.
Okay.
So
I have a question. Instead of giving a Lou name, should we give a Leslie name today?
Leslie. Oh, also, Leslie, I really apologize. I'm hearing my voice coming back from your setup. Is it possible to use headphones or to turn? I think there's some feedback.
Hold on, let me get some headphones. Where are my headphones?
I'm not gonna lie. I'm really in awe of all that lighting in the rack. What is that?
That computer looks amazing.
That's the computer.
That computer's awesome. How you been?
I've been good.
Been busy.
Been chilling. Hold on, let me text my family, tell them to keep it down. I don't know if you can hear my wife yelling at my daughter just now.
It's okay. I'm Mexican. I'm used to yelling.
We couldn't hear it, but this man deserves.
All right, now let me get this going. Get my little workhorses here.
Mastered by Braden says Leslie got that full-time streamer set up.
Yeah, I'll be streaming. I'll be on here gaming. I'll be playing Call of Duty, all kind of stuff.
Oh, that's
Let me
awesome.
see. Microphone check 1 2 1 2.
Oh yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep,
Yep.
Is that better now?
much better.
All right, bet.
Yo, Leslie, your camera is great.
We'll
Like, holy
what?
crap, dude. That camera you set up, you got, like, it's
have
just
to ask you about your
crystal
camera
clear.
settings later. Yeah, your camera
Oh
settings.
yeah, absolutely. I'll give you all the specs and the whatnots.
That's a
Is
Grammy-winning
it-
camera.
Is it possible for you to record your own voice on your end?
Oh,
if
yes,
not-
I remember you asked me that.
If not, it's okay. We'll make it work. But
Hold on, let's see. Let's open up some professional tools and see what we can do.
professional tools. All right, keep anybody in the chat right now. Keep asking questions. Keep asking questions. We'll kind of go through them during the course of the recording, and I'm sure that Leslie will love to answer all of these. So keep asking questions. We got a good question from Straight Trippin'. Got questions from Nate on the track, I think.
setting up Pro Tools now. Let me see if
So
I can
from
get this popping.
Shat's Mixes, I see your question as well. Pixel, I see your question. We have a bunch, so.
Where shall I put said session? Laughing at me?
No, the chat. I'm laughing at the chat.
I was like, what did I do?
No. Master by Braden says, I'm going to start telling people that my DAW is Professional Tools. It's the one that Leslie Brathwaite uses.
Professional Tools. Absolutely. Wait, where's my, yo, what the?
We have a lot of good questions. Keep asking the questions, chat.
Facts. Let's see.
I'm
You
trying
want
not to read
stereo
them right
audio,
now.
or do you want mono audio? Probably
Yeah, just a
mono,
single
right?
mono vocal is great.
Alright. Such a mono type of guy.
Ooh.
Microphone check.
question
One,
of mono
two,
versus
1,
stereo.
2.
On 808s. Yes, indeed.
Microphone check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
I will.
I don't know that I have my do I have my mic set up? I've never recorded my voice.
It's
No,
no
that's all
worries
good.
because it'll record your voice regardless, but it'll just record it post-stream processing. So
okay.
it's a very minimal difference.
Okay.
I guess
Yeah,
at this
no,
point we
I'm-
just mute the notification sounds. That's it.
Yeah, I'm not set up to record in Pro Tools. Sorry, guys, because this is a USB mic, so
Oh, you're all
I'm
good.
not. Yeah.
No worries, no
Sorry,
worries.
guys. Sorry.
You're not using a 251 for your live streams? How dare you?
Absolutely not. I'm using a very cheesy HyperX.
Oh, the LED one.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I always thought that
The
looked
little
dope.
cheesy USB. Because my stream isn't like elaborate. My stream is kind of like whatever.
So
I'm
also
just all
before
that gaming.
before we get started, is there anything specific that you'd like for us to promote? I know, like, we'll probably talk about your Twitch stream. That might be good.
Yeah, that's about it. I'm easygoing, man. I'm just kind of free flowing through life.
Sweet. All right, let me start recording here. There's one thing I want to do real quick.
Should've got a haircut.
Width. There we go. We're gonna kind of like line up the width a little bit more.
That works.
Do I need to be more in the center? My camera's kind of like.
No, you're good. You're good. I just wanted to make it the same size. All right, so I'm gonna start recording. Hello and welcome back to the Mixing Music Podcast. I am your host DK, and with me, as always, is Luxurious Lou.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do like my fancy shoes.
And today we have a very special guest, long time mentor. We've talked a lot about you on the show and your influence over my mixes, my work, my business ethics, even family time. The amazing, illustrious Leslie Brathwaite. Yay! Welcome to the show. Finally, man.
Thanks for
Can I
having
say
me.
finally?
I know.
I guess you
We've been
can.
trying to put we've been trying to put this together for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Like every week, I just keep having to cancel. I'm like, no, I can't come right now because I've been mixing a couple projects that it's like Monday is actually crazy day. So been mixing this Jack Harlow album, comes out Friday. So excited about that.
Nice.
Yeah, comes out Friday, May 6th. Come Home, The Kids Miss You is the name of the album. So
Yeah.
it's a good album. I really I like it. I feel good about it. TZO mixed the first 2 singles,
Mm-hmm.
and then I mixed the rest of the album.
Dope.
That's
so
awesome.
shout out to TZO, my guy.
Yeah.
So-
No.
Yeah, but
actually,
TZO's been on the show now as well, and we're also
Oh,
good friends
nice.
with him, and we're excited to see. I loved your post about celebrating other engineers.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that
Facts.
was very
And by the way, congrats to Tizio on his #1 for first class. That was huge. So yeah, it's all for me. That's what it's about. For me, it's a brotherhood of engineers. We all respect each other. You can technically, from the outside, look at this as we're competition, but I don't look at it that way.
No.
I've always looked at it like we all have different gifts. We all have different timing. What is for Tizio is for Tizio. What's for me is for me. What's for you is for you. I don't ever look at it as competing or competitive.
Yeah.
So I was super happy when it went #1 and super happy to congratulate Tizio. And, I know he's doing his thing. He's, a little younger in the game than I am, but it's always good when you can encourage your fellow engineers and, just enjoy everybody's work. Like even on the Pusha album, I'm like loving Manny's mixes. It's just about cheering on each other and acknowledging that we all do good work. So.
Yeah. Honestly speaking, like that's actually, I'm really glad to hear you say that because like I've been asked by like some of the people that were lucky enough to be able to mentor through our program, right? But one of the questions that I get is like, yo, how do you like maintain professionalism when you know that you're supposed to be mixing one thing and then they hire another mix engineer or this and that, or like how do you maintain relationships without getting overly competitive? I'm like, well, honestly speaking, I look at it as motivation. Type of competitiveness. Like you might hear them work on a mix and you might be like, you know what, their top end's better than mine. I'm not looking at it as like a hater. It's like, yo, how do I get it like that? Because that is amazing. Like they killed it.
And that's the thing, Lou, is I always look at it as an opportunity to learn. So for instance, and it's happened to all of us in different, I've been on both ends of it, even now in my career, where I was just mixing a record with Pharrell not too long ago. It was I believe it was a Monica record, and then for some reason he was like, "Man, I want to try Fabian," and then Fabian mixed it, and then I called Fabian because I had to send him all the files. And one thing I can always say, no engineer has ever been able to say about me is I will never be bitter about having to turn over files or send files to another engineer to mix it if that's what the producer wants or the artist wants or the label wants. And then Fabian and I are friends, so it's like I called him up. I was like, bro, I got all the stems you need. I got the full session, however you want to mix it. Let me know what you do on the top end. Let me know what you do that helps Pharrell get over that hump. And we were talking about compression and da-da-da. So like you, I look at it like a learning opportunity. And you also have to realize too, in those situations, a lot of times it's not just an indictment on your talent. And I think we as human beings tend to take it personal. One of my favorite books of all time is a book called The 4 Agreements. And one of the agreements you make with yourself is you don't take things personal. And you apply it to this situation. We tend to, as human beings, take it so personal that somebody else is mixing something. What does that mean about me? Sometimes it's not an indictment on your talent. And even in this situation I just described, it wasn't that Fabian was the better mixer. Fabian was in Miami and Pharrell was in Miami. And I could tell he just wanted to be there. And I think that was the thing that pushed him more towards Fabian. And I still mix Pharrell records that Pharrell had one on Jack Harlow. So it's not like if somebody chooses to go another direction, that means, oh my, like even with the Jack Harlow stuff where Jack called me up when he was doing the first thing and said, hey man, we had a lot of success first album, da-da-da. I just want to try around a couple of, I think they went to Jason Joshua and they ended up on Tizio for the first single, and then they went back to Tizio for First Class. But I didn't take that as a slight or a problem. I just took it as, oh, okay, cool. You want to see what other things are out there and what other sounds. And then eventually he was like, but you know what? I missed your sound. I want to come back to you for the rest of the album, da-da-da. It's all love and it's all good, and I never take it personal. And it's like you said, it's an opportunity to learn sometimes. I love getting sessions from other engineers too. Like it's the way I learn about new plugins all the time. Like whenever I open a session, like DK, if you send me a session, the first thing I'm doing, this is the first practice I do is I open the session and then I look for all the grayed out plugins that I don't have, and then I go buy them. And what that is an opportunity for me to learn how to use these plugins that I don't normally use. Yeah. So I love the interaction of mixing things that other people may have tried to mix or vice versa. It's all love to me, man. I never get bent out of shape about any of it.
That's amazing. Actually, talking about the 4 agreements, That is a book that I recently read, and I was going through the old Mixed with the Masters notebook from our time together, and on like page 2, you specifically talked about the 4 agreements, and that, yeah, I remember that. And the cool thing, specifically to go a little bit deeper into that with not taking things personally, it was interesting to me that the book would say, of course, negative things. If someone calls me ugly, that like not a personal thing, but also positive things. If someone says that you're the best in the world, don't let that get to your head. Like, just move on, accept it.
Absolutely.
Which is really interesting. But I love that we talk about this sort of stuff. This is one of the big things that I respect about you is I feel like you are very good with at least understanding like philosophy, ethics, and kind of more the emotional aspect of the business, which is so important and so needed, just as much as the actual craft. And I take a lot of influence from that. And so today we are live on Twitch right now. We're streaming. This will be on YouTube as well for anybody and we've been having a lot of questions come in for you. But before we get into the questions and talk a little bit further about you, I would love to reintroduce you to the audience again and talk about many things. So Leslie is a mix engineer from Atlanta, Georgia, has can I say couple dozen Grammys now and multiple. It's almost a couple dozen, a little bit less than a.
It's not a couple dozen. It's a dozen plus.
There you go.
Dozen plus.
Dozen plus. And has obviously done so well and very renowned especially you were one of the, can I say, most influential and founding mixers of the Atlanta trap scene. And
yeah.
And
that's accurate.
And very much a big influencer with the whole auto-tune sound as well within hip-hop world, which is crazy to say. I mean, you've worked on Michael Jackson records, you've worked with old cats and new school cats as well, Lil Uzi Vert's records, Jack Harlow, you said, Pharrell, Beyonce, and a bunch of other. It's such a very incredible track record, and something that can so easily bloat an ego, but somehow you're still the coolest dude ever. I'm just really excited that you're able to be on the show and people can kind of get a taste of exactly what I think that you're a prime example of someone that deserves all the success that you've ever had. And
speaking on something you just said, the reason for that, the reason why I think my ego does not get inflated by all the accolades and everything else is because I understand very clearly that I'm a small part of bigger things. And I've always said that I would rather be a small part of something great than a large part of something good. And I think a lot of times that's what happens with egos, with artists, with engineers, with producers, where they want all the credit. And I'm very much in tune with and aware that I have a very small part in a big thing. So when an album gets a Grammy or goes platinum or multi-platinum or 10 million sales or whatever, WAP or Jack Harlow, it's a lot of different pieces to that puzzle. It's the recording engineer, the producer, the artist, the label, me, Colin Leonard, the guy who masters it, the person who promotes it. And just to a huge extent, the consumer is a part of that too, because without them, the record wouldn't be popular. So it's all of these factors that make something great. And I'm very much in tune with and aware that I'm a small part of that. So.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. So I was blessed very much. I talked about it on one of the first few episodes of the podcast, which has now been going for like almost 3 years, which is crazy. I started the podcast right after our Mix with the Master seminar in France with you. So I talked a lot about my experiences there. So it's great to officially have you on. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll get right into the questions if that's okay.
Absolutely. We had such a fun time in France too. That was an epic trip. Like, we had a really good time. I had the opportunity to do it again with a new bunch this past December. And I think I'm going in the summertime again. They just asked me if I would do summer. But that was epic. That was an epic trip.
It was so fun. How was it for the first time compared to the second time? I assume it was a little bit different, but
Yeah, the second time was different because I will tell you there were pros and cons. The first time, what I really loved about with you guys, it was pre-COVID, so we were out every night and we were going to restaurants and we had different bonding experiences, and we were like walking back from town in the middle of the night, and we just had these great bonding moments. And the thing about the second group is we bonded as well. We had bonding moments, but they were different bonding moments because we stayed at La Fabrique the whole time. We hardly ever went downtown, and when we did, it was like a couple people go in spurts, but we never went downtown as a group because no restaurant would seat the whole group. It was just too many of us, so we never traveled as a group or that kind of thing. So, but the bonding was different. So we would sit around dinner time at La Fabrique, and we would talk till 5 a.m. at the dinner table. We would have dinner at like 9, and before you know it, we look up and it's like 5 a.m. We're all just sitting there talking at the table. And the other thing that was very unique about this experience that I wish you guys had gotten to experience was my wife was with me on the second trip. So she kind of was a whole part of the group, and we even did a thing on the last day where she did a Q&A. So she was answering questions about like how it is to deal with an engineer or, work-life balance and all that kind of stuff. So that was very informative. For a lot of people came up to me and was like, yo, that was probably one of the highlights of the trip, is getting to ask Doris a whole lot of questions and, that kind of thing. But I think both trips were amazing. They just had their unique qualities. And I think you guys being the first group that I did it with, that will always be a special group and a special trip. And it's like that feeling of going to La Fabrique for the first time with you guys. And like, that's something that won't be duplicated. Like,
of course.
Yeah.
And man, I'm glad that my buddy Mitch was able to be there. You met Jenny as well.
Yep.
It's a good group of people out
Yeah,
there.
that was fun when I got to know everybody, and they were like, "Oh, DK, that's my guy," and I was like, "Yes." Yeah, so
it was so awesome. That is so great that they had such a good time. All right, so we're gonna go straight into the question, and I'm assuming that we'll sort of unpack more about you and more about your philosophies and mentality towards all this stuff. We're just gonna go right in. So this is from Pixel. How do you deal with a client that expects you to match poorly mixed demos? So the demo is not good. How do you kind of get over that?
Yeah,
expectation?
a lot of times that's the goal or that's the thing is they've been listening to a certain thing. They fell in love with the song through that certain mix. And a lot of times the mixes aren't that good. Sometimes the demos, the roughs, we call them the rough mixes, they're terrible. But what you have to do is figure out what about that rough is the sauce. So for instance, I can have a terrible rough mix and I know that, okay, the hi-hats are standing out. The hi-hats are the thing that they really love or that's really driving the rough mix. The rough mix can sound awful, but if the hi-hats are driving it and they're super loud, even painfully loud, I know that in my mix, I gotta at least be aware of the fact the hi-hat needs to be loud. That's the thing is, if I can understand that the hi-hat needs to be loud, almost as annoyingly loud as it was in the rough, it's trying to keep the essence of the mix without delivering a terrible mix. So it's figuring out what are those things that they fell in love with, and sometimes it's just the rawness that they like. Like a lot of Cardi B records, she just likes the rawness of how she sounds when she just came out of the booth. So I try to keep that with her voice, just up in your face, raw. So it's just about figuring out what that thing is that they love, and then catering to that. Sorry, I adjust my headphones because I can't hear myself. Yeah, so it's about catering to that thing they love and figuring out what is the thing they fell in love with that rough mix. Sometimes it's not a mix thing; it's a feel thing, and you'll hear me probably say that word a whole lot throughout this podcast.
I remember
all about feel.
I remember you mentioning that specifically about hi-hats or trying to find specific elements and get that feel right or something similar. I find that often to the case when I get rough mixes, that it's not necessarily the tonal balance or could be or couldn't be, but it's how do you communicate that with your clients to figure out, is there any communication that takes place to figure out what it is exactly that they're looking for, or is it just instant?
Yeah, and again, here comes the word feel. It's always about trying to understand how things are making them feel, and then it's my job to figure out what to do. And I can give you a story that's a perfect example of that. And I think I told the story in France. So when I first met Cardi B, very first day I met her, they brought her to the studio, and we were going to mix her album. We had a week and a half. They had just found out she was pregnant. They were rushing, so they brought her to the studio in Atlanta to introduce her to me, and then we were all going down to Miami. When she came that first day, she had just had a mix done for something else that she was working on, and the engineer was from Canada, the mix engineer. And the same day she met me, she was like, "Hey, I wonder if you could take a listen to something. Something's bothering me about this mix, and I don't know how to communicate to the engineer what I need." So the first thing I asked her is, I said, "Well, what's the problem? How is it making you feel?" And she used a very specific word. She said, "It just makes me dizzy."
Mm.
And I said, "Oh, okay." So then I listened to the mix, and right away, I knew exactly how to fix the mix. There was this sound in the mix. It was the main sound, and it was panning really fast, and it was one of the louder main sounds. So I called the engineer, and I said, "Hey, send her back a mix, and all you got to do is take off the auto pan. Don't do anything else to the mix. Don't change anything else." And he was like, "Yeah, but she says it's all wrong, and I feel like I'm fucking it up." And oh, sorry, can I curse?
Yeah,
You're fine. You're fine.
Bleep me out. I feel like I'm. So he was like, "Yeah, I feel like I'm messing it up," and da da da. I was like, "Bro, just take the auto pan off. Trust me." He took the auto pan off, sent the mix back, and she was like, "Oh my God, it's perfect. What did you do?" And I was like, "I just took off the sound was panning." She didn't know how to use the technical term panning. She was only able to tell me how it made her feel. It made her feel dizzy. So I had to now connect with the feeling and figure out what in this song could possibly make her dizzy. And the obvious thing was the very loud sound that was panning like this. So it's that, to me, that's the essence of the job of the engineers, to figure out how a thing is making an artist feel or how they want to feel about something, and then we go do what we do.
Translating the emotional into technical.
I feel like
Yes.
that's a big part of what I've talked to you before about my relationship with Keisha Cole, where she's been in the game for a long time. You know, she knows what she likes, what she doesn't like, but she's not necessarily educated in the technical side of things. So like when people are in the room with people, I've had that same issue before. Well, you know, I just don't like the sound. What do you not like about it? You know, I'm not asking her for technical things. I'm always waiting for her to just say, I don't know, I just feel dark. I feel
Feels blue.
big.
It
I
feels too
feel
blue.
yeah. And I'm just like, okay, I know her well enough to understand what she's after. So like sometimes I'll get calls from producers like, hey, you know, we were talking about this for her show. She's telling me this. Like, what does she mean? I'm like, I let me hear it, and I could probably tell you what it is. But it becomes a communication difference, and I feel like Leslie said, like a big selling point for Cardi and him probably was exactly that, the fact that he just understood what she wanted, even though she couldn't really communicate it.
So, Leslie, I think this is a good follow-up question with that is, how often do you get the time to actually sit down with your clients and get to know them? Or because
Yeah,
I
like,
feel
was
like this
that
is a lot of
odd?
like instinct with you, where like
Yeah.
you just kind of understand instinctually what's going on, or do you get to spend a lot of time with these clients and kind of understand what they like?
Well, I think earlier in my career when I was a recording engineer, I spent, sorry for the dog barking, I hope it's not missing.
It's okay.
No worries.
It's not a husky going.
Yeah. So it's a little cockapoo, and he's in the other room. Super.
Is he
super
acting like a
loud for no
cockapoo?
reason. Yes. So early in my career when I was a recording engineer, I would get to know the artist really well. As a mix engineer, I don't get to know them much at all because a lot of it is very distance communication, and I think one of the gifts of what we do is figuring out how to figure those things out really quickly. And if you get good at keying in on people really quickly, that's the gift of it. And I don't have to be around somebody long to know. And then there's certain things that are pretty constant where, like, most artists, you know, they like their vocals pretty loud, or you kind of get a sense of what the person is sensitive about, what the person gravitates to. You can lock into that kind of stuff fairly quickly based on what they talk about. And one of the key things for me, I remember when I first met Pharrell, I met him via phone when he was first looking for somebody to mix, you know, to try out different mixers. And our first conversation we had, and he started telling me about the feel of records and how he likes things to feel like the 70s and da. He started naming off records. So I was writing down all the records he was naming, and I went and studied them. So it's easy to kind of lock in and figure out what somebody likes if you pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That EQ is super duper important to develop, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
This question is from Linhart97. Thank you so much for subscribing again. And her question is, from listening to music, what would you say has influenced your mixing the most?
Interesting. I think what influences my mixes the most is understanding two things: that fundamentals can be a huge part of what you do. It's not necessarily about all the tricks and all the gadgets and all the fancy plugins. It's the fundamentals. It's levels. It's panning. Those things can make you feel things just by levels. And then it's feel. It's understanding the records that when I was younger, the records that made me feel something. It was something about those mixes, like whether it's Off the Wall or Thriller or a lot of the Bob Marley records, like just the feel of those records was amazing, and the mix played a part in it. So I think for me, listening and understanding how to convey feel through fundamentals, volume, slight, panning, slight dip in volume in the strings here, and then bringing the strings back up here, or those things. Like I said, a lot of young engineers tend to rely on a lot of tricks and fancy plugins, and I'm like, no, the fundamentals is what gets you through. If you've seen my mixes, DK, you've seen how I mix, and it's like the most basic. I barely use any plugins, that kind of thing. It's a lot of people can't believe it, but it's relying on the fundamentals to create the feel. Is huge for me.
It was so funny, if I may comment on that. It was at the end of the week of Mix with the Masters, and I was talking to Victor, and maybe it was, I'm pretty sure it was Victor. I was like, yo, you've seen a lot of these. How was Leslie's week? And he gave me the funniest answer ever. He said, it was so good, but I'm kind of disappointed. And I was like, why? Well, the week before was Andrew Sheps, where it was like really, really complicated and a lot of good insight. And then here comes Leslie, that simplifies everything so much that I don't know, like I don't know how to feel about it is kind of what he said.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like perfect. And at that point in time, as I'm still a newer engineer, but at the point in time, I was definitely a newer engineer, that was exactly what I needed. Where it's just like, oh, that's right. And you never teach it in a way that's disrespectful. Like it's still a craft that you put a lot of time and effort into, but
Absolutely.
No need to overthink it, right?
Yeah.
I love that. This is another good question. This is from Straight Trippin' here on Twitch. How did Leslie get started in music? Get his first big break with someone big?
How I got started in music, I mean, if we go into the very, very, very beginning, when I was a kid, I would always sneak out of the living room and listen to records all night. My dad had these very huge, like, headphones that looked like pilots would wear them. And I would wear those and just kind of listen to records and, check records and all that kind of stuff. Sorry about the dog, guys. I'm gonna have to put him up. Can you hear him?
We can hear him, but don't worry, it's not.
Yeah, it's not overshadowing you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because he's getting on my nerves. But anyway, so I would listen to records. I would be dissecting what I hear in my headphones, and that became a part of my DNA for mixing. I think just listening to sounds, understanding sounds. In high school, my guidance counselor would hear me complain all the time about how I didn't want to go to college. So then she found Full Sail University. At the time, it was Full Sail Center for Recording Arts. I went there, learned about all the different aspects of sound, and realized that mixing was my thing. And then I moved to Atlanta and started interning at a studio. Started interning at Dallas Austin's recording projects, known affectionately as DARP Studios here in Atlanta. I started interning. I started just anything I can do to be around, run and get coffee, run and get food, whatever the case may be, just to be in that environment. And I learned it, just worked my way up. And then it was making tape dupes and doing anything I can do to stay around. And then my really big break came. There were other groups that I worked with here and there, but my really big break came one night when TLC was recording a song and the engineer didn't show up. And then Tion was like, T-Boz, she and I had gotten cool just in general. She was like, but Leslie can do it. He went to Full Sail. And I was like, and so I just got in there, started recording. And, I made some mistakes that night, but we made it through the night. And what we learned that night and what Dallas learned that night is he really liked working with me. And Tion really liked working with me. And we just had a vibe. And he asked me to come back, a couple of days later to record something else. And then I just became his recording engineer. And then it morphed into me mixing certain things and becoming his mix engineer. And then, branching out from there. And then other people who would come by the studio would see, oh, he's mixing Monica, he's mixing so-and-so. And then it would be like, Outkast would be like, they would sign on the face, but they would be at the studio all the time. They were like, well, come mix this, or, so.
That's amazing.
That kind of thing.
So did you go into DARP Studios? I mean, when did you decide you wanted to be an engineer specifically? Was there ever a point that you wanted to be a producer or like a beat maker or anything else?
When I got to Full Sail, I didn't know what I wanted to be. I had no clue. I just knew I wanted to do music. I knew I wanted to be behind the scenes. By the time I got out of Full Sail, I realized, okay, mixing is what I want to do. I want to be an engineer. So I had a very, because when I went to Full Sail, when I got there, I was fresh out of high school. So I just didn't really have a clear vision as to what aspect of music I would be doing. But it cleared up and it came into focus as I was going through school. And when I graduated, I was like, oh, I want to be a mixer.
So specifically, because I think that, if I'm not mistaken, being a mixer is still a relatively new thing within the last few decades or something like that. So at that time, it was still well enough known you want to be a mixer, not an engineer.
Yeah, I knew early on that I loved the engineering, the recording of it, but I also knew I looked up to guys who only mixed because I liked the craft of mixing. So, and they're different types. There's some engineers who they have to do both. They have to record and mix the project. I always felt like I was going to evolve into only mixing.
So how long did you actually put in? How many years did you put in of just mostly recording before it kind of transitioned?
I recorded. So I got to DARP in '92. Graduated from Full Sail in '92. I recorded consistently up until about 95, and even some into 96 and a little into 97. But by 94, 95, I was mixing here and there. I think where the big pivotal shift came, where I was only mixing, I think that happened right in 97, 98. And then since 98, I hadn't recorded. It was just mixing.
So what do you recommend for anybody that likes mixing? And do you recommend everybody that wants to be a mixer start with recording, or do you kind of recommend everybody to jump into mixing as soon as possible?
Well, I don't recommend a specific path for any one person. I think that everybody's different. I do think, and I have seen historically, guys who understand and have dabbled in the fundamentals of recording do better at mixing. But I've seen people who have never recorded and then went straight to mixing and done okay. I think it's about how much you grasp. I always think that you probably will get a better foundation recording and then moving into mixing. But I don't think there's any one prescribed path. And I think it's based on your personality, based on your aptitude, what you're able to learn and pick up. And I think it's all of that. So I would never prescribe a specific path for any one individual. It's always based on whatever works best for that person.
Amazing. I remember one day during Mix with the Masters, someone in the group asked, and this is a common question that I get as well, and I changed my work habits because of this. Someone in the group asked, I've been doing a lot of producing and recording, but I want to switch over to completely mixing. And the question was, how do I do that? To switch over from recording to now just mixing. Do you remember what you said, or do you have different thoughts? Or
I think if I remember what I said, I told them that one of the hard decisions you have to make is you got to stop recording. And And I don't think, again, not prescribing this for every single person, but my method would be to stop recording, because in the minds of the producers and the artists that see you, if they see you recording, they're not going to respect you as a mixer. And so it's a hard choice to make, to try to cut off your recording and then start mixing. I think that's what I said. I said something along those lines. And I remember that in my own journey, where I was a part of a situation where I was fortunate enough to be around Madonna when she came to the studio dark to work. She only saw me in a mixing capacity, even though I wasn't mixing her stuff. I was mixing Monica's stuff at the time. And the recording engineer who recorded her, Dallas, also was going to use him to mix. And then she was like, no, he can't mix my stuff. And then I ended up getting the mix gig, because that's the only thing she saw in her mind when she came. She always saw me mixing Monica's stuff, but she saw me as a mixer. She never saw me recording. So in her mind, I wasn't a recording engineer, I was a mixer. In her mind, the guy who was recording her was a recording engineer. So I think it's important to kind of establish roles and who you are. Perception is everything. When people see you recording, I don't think they respect you as a mixer.
That's so interesting. So it was immediately after that I went home, and I think within the 6 months of coming home, I stopped recording completely. And I will have to say, for the first year, it was financially more difficult.
Yes,
but it was
financially
funny.
Sucks.
Yeah, but I remember there were moments in the first year where people came to me and like weirdly respected me more in the local area, just because I was like one of the first people in Utah to only mix. And Utah's not a big like music town or music state at all. So it was just like, DK's the only one in the state that like only mixes. And that changed everything. And then after that, just kind of like snowball. So I remember taking that advice.
Think of it in these terms. And I don't know if I put it in these terms in Mix with the Master, but think of it in these terms. Imagine that you have, God forbid, some kind of brain injury, right? You go to the hospital, and there are two surgeons. There's one that only focuses on the brain. All he operates on is the brain. That is all he does. There's another surgeon. He does the brain, the heart, the appendix. Which surgeon are you going to choose?
Yeah.
You're going to choose the one that only operates on brains, because that's the thing you feel like he's the best at, because that's the only thing he does. You see what I'm saying? So it's and that applies to in different, like if you got a problem with the brakes in your car and you go to a place that only specializes in brakes, 9 times out of 10 you're going to have more confidence in that place than the place that does paint jobs, brakes, transmission, auto glass, tinting. That place may not be great at any one of those things, but that brake place, if that's all they do is brakes, you're probably going to have a lot of confidence that your brakes are going to be good. So I think that's the mentality too, is subconsciously people tend to attach this notion that you're a specialist in mixing if that's the only thing you do.
I think this is a good segue into another question that I have. I think this is something that we kind of bring up for debate, but I'd love to hear your opinion. Your opinion, Leslie, is we understand the importance of perception. Unfortunately, that's a big deal, the aesthetics, the perception, and how you're perceived. In relation to how good you are at your craft versus the perception that you have or the people skills that you have, what's kind of the ratio of importance?
I think they go hand in hand, and I think as long as the perception does not outweigh the ability, like I think it's okay to create a buzz and to have this perception that you're a great mixer, but you also got to be a great mixer. And I've seen too many times where an engineer would get famous because of who they were associated with in the recording phase, and then they mix one record, and then a lot of people start coming to them, but then they're not really that good as a mixer yet. And so I think it's important to try to catch up to that expectation really quickly. And if you know that rush is coming, I'm not saying avoid it. I'm saying once you know that buzz is coming, now you got to work really hard at your craft. You got to get good, because then other people are perceiving you as a mixer. It's like you got to. So for instance, I remember when I first mixed Monica's Don't Take It Personal, right? Her first record, this is in 1994. And then Madonna starts coming around at the end of '94 and seeing me mixing Monica, and all of a sudden there's chatter that, oh, Madonna might want to fly you out to mix Power of Goodbye or X, Y, and Z. So now I knew I had to like catch up and get really good at my craft and really hone in on things, because I didn't want to go out to LA and not be who she thought I was. And not to fake it. I wasn't going to try to go out there and do all kind of elaborate tricks and da-da-da. This is who you're getting. And if you hiring me to mix, know that I'm a little raw, but, I know how to deliver, feel, and X, Y, and Z. So I think as long as the ability matches the hype, I think it's okay. I've seen a lot of situations where the hype outweighs the ability, and that's obviously not good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, let's see. So there is a question from Pixel says, how do you retain your own sound or style as an engineer whilst working with multiple mix preferences with multiple clients? Also, are you supposed to / should be aiming at developing a sound like that?
well, I think for me, I think that's a mistake that a lot of engineers make, is they always want, it's again, ego. They want to be involved. They want to, this is my sound. And I'm like, no, it's about what the artist wants. It's about, for me, and again, I don't think this approach works for everybody. I know there's some engineers that will tell you should be developing a sound and da-da-da. But I don't believe that. I believe that it's about good work. It's about giving the artist what they want. It's about honing in, listening to what works for that artist and delivering the mix that they want. It's not about, I got to give them my signature sound. I don't believe in that. I believe in crafting whatever sound is necessary for the artist that you're working on. Okay. So I have a totally different way of thinking than a lot of people. There are a lot of engineers who will tell you it's important to develop a sound and blah, blah, blah. I don't subscribe to that theory. And I don't think either one of us is wrong or right. I just think it's just what works for, every person. For me, I like to give the artist and the producer and the label what they're looking for. It's not about me.
I like that. I as a observation, it's really interesting to me when I first saw you mix, that eventually I knew we were going to talk about this, is how little you actually do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you charge a pretty penny. So it's like, at first, when I first saw it, I was like, whoa, people are paying so much for barely anything. But then the more you started explaining it just like that, like they're also paying partial.
What they're paying for is all my experience. They're not paying for me to do a whole bunch and take a whole lot of time doing it. They're paying for experience. And sometimes experience is knowing what to do and what not to do. Because you can unmix a song. You've heard me say this before. You can unmix a song just as much as you mixed it. So all of what you're paying me for is the experience of knowing what to do and what not to do. And sometimes what not to do kind of shines. Sometimes it doesn't need a whole lot. Sometimes it's just one little thing that it needs. But the thing is, you didn't know that thing, so you had to pay me. It's no different from if you take your car into the mechanic and the only thing that's wrong with your car is it needed a new spark plug, and you look at the bill and you go, why did you charge me $500 just to change a spark plug? I could have done that myself. Yes, you could have physically changed the spark plug yourself, but I don't have the knowledge to diagnose that the spark plug is what was needed. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for the knowledge to know what to do. You're not paying for the actual physical act. Because if you've ever put a spark plug in a car, it's not the hardest thing in the world to do. But you have to know about spark plugs and know that that was the specific problem. And a spark plug is no bigger than this mouse. So it seems as if it's a relatively large price for a small thing, but you're not paying for the thing. You're paying for the experience and knowing where to put the thing, knowing that that was the actual problem to begin with, blah, blah, blah. It's the same thing with mixing, where you're not paying for me to come in and do a million things to your drums. Sometimes you're coming in for me to come in and take out 6 of your kicks and just let one sit there. That might be the thing that makes your mix shine. And I've done that before. You've seen me post about that before, where I had a producer say, man, I had like 8 kicks going. I mean, how'd you make it sound so amazing? I took out 7 of them.
Yeah.
That was what you paid me for.
For
You
real.
paid me for that experience and knowledge of knowing that you just had too many damn kicks in your song.
So I do have a
it's-
question on that, just because from a mastering engineer standpoint, just super unfiltered opinion and everything. Now, with your level of experience and everything, I'm sure that you've had records where your master bounce is the one that's released, and then I'm guessing there's been a few that go to a mastering engineer. What have you seen be the relationship style or the communication style between you and mastering engineers, or where you've landed in those situations? Because obviously your experience has influenced a lot of the final product to your mix. But when there's now, I guess, an added cook or assistant or whatever to the situation that comes after your mix, where does the communication land? Do you always get to communicate? Do you not always get to communicate? Like, how have you
Well-
kind of worked with mastering engineers?
Well, the thing is, every mix I do gets mastered. It's usually Colin Leonard. You kind of develop these relationships with the mastering engineers. If you're a top mixer, you're gonna be dealing with the top mastering engineers most of the time. So it's just you. There's a group of mastering engineers that my records are either going to Colin Leonard, Chris Athens, Dave Kutch. There's a select few, Chris Guerin. There's a select few of mastering engineers. Most of my mixes go to Colin because that's what I would recommend. And they'll ask me, they'll say, well, who do you usually use, or who do you like to master your records? And because Colin and I have that language that you're talking about, we did take time developing that language through. I remember the first time he mastered something for me, I was mixing, I think it was a record by Drummer Boy. And the record came back and I was like, yo, this sounds dope. I was like, I remember I'd never heard of Colin. And I hit him up. And I was like, yo, you did an amazing job on this drummer record. And his response to me was, well, I would love to master more records for you. I'd love for us to build a relationship. I like what you do. Your mix was amazing. And then we just started talking. And I just started sending projects to him. And I started realizing every project I sent, he nails it. And I was like, oh, he's the guy. So, and Chris Athens too. And Chris Athens and Colin are actually friends. Colin, I think, came up under Chris Athens, but Chris Athens, same way. I remember the very first time I used Chris Athens, I think he was a favorite of the Def Jam crew. And so when I was mixing stuff like Jeezy and other records, they would always be like, send it to Chris Athens. And then I started realizing, like, yo, this dude does a great job. I love how he, masters these records. And then I reached out to Chris and was like, yo, like, tell me if I need to do anything better or worse. And he was like, no, your mixes are amazing. Like, I love, So it's always about having that language. And then, like I said, once you develop that thing, you just know what you're getting. I know when I send a record to Colin, it's going to sound amazing. I don't even listen to the masters now. Like, even on like Jack Harlow or other albums that I've mixed recently, I don't listen to the masters because I know what he's going to do. I know they're going to be great.
Just out of curiosity on that, do they change much about it? Because I know there's different preferences between different people. Like, some people want the mastering engineer to essentially not be audible, just as transparent as it can. Like, if they send it back exactly the same, like no changes, they'd probably be happy with that. And then there's other people that want the tailored touch. How has your preference been? I know you're very much about whatever the client wants. I know working with some people,
and
they
really
tell me, like, as long as the client's happy. What is your preference?
Really, it's about knowing that specific thing about that master engineer. So, for instance, with Colin, I know he's going to do a few things. He's going to make it as loud as possible. He's going to make sure he keeps the integrity of the low end. He's going to make it slam as much as possible, but he's not going to crush the low end. He's going to keep that low end pumping through, and he's going to keep the clarity on the top. And those are the three things I care about. Make it loud, make sure you don't compress my low end, and make sure that clarity comes through on the top. We are good. And he does that. Chris Athens, same thing. Other mastering engineers have different styles of like compressing stuff really hard, X, Y, and Z. And so I won't necessarily recommend them, or I know, okay, if it goes to this guy, it might come back a little over compressed or X, Y, and Z. So yeah, different mastering engineers have different styles that what you're getting, and that's why I would recommend Colin
and stuff like that on my end, only because I've always heard a different answer on this. Do you ever, two-part question, do you ever mix for a certain loudness? And when you do, because some people will actually just drop a limiter or just lower the volume before sending it off to your mastering engineers, how, do you have a target loudness for yourself, being that you go for mastering engineers, and do you send it with a limiter or without a limiter?
What has become more of the norm now is that the producers and the artists want to hear it with a certain loudness before it even goes to mastering. So I may run the mixes to a limiter or something. I haven't done it a lot in the past, but I've started to do it more now. And then what I would do is drop the level right before I send it to mastering so that they still have headroom to do what they do. Because sometimes when you put a limiter on there or you put some type of mastering plugin on there, it also colors the mix. It gives a certain edge or a compression or clarity to the mix that if you take it off and send it to the mastering engineer, the mix would be different. So I want the mix to be as close to what they approved, and then I just adjust the volume to give the mastering engineer some headroom.
Gotcha.
If I do put a limiter or something on there, but there are mixes still where I don't put anything on the master fader. DK has actually seen me mix things where I don't put anything on the master fader. And sometimes I've like I said, I've started putting a couple things or trying a couple things here and there just because we're in the loudness wars, and that's where producers are, that's where artists are, where everything got to be loud. And I just be like, yeah, did everybody lose their volume knobs? Like, why is why is loudness the focus of every producer and artist? And I'm just like, you have a volume knob, you can turn it up. Like, I hate that comment when an artist or producer goes, yeah, everything sounds great, but it's just not loud enough. I'm like, A, it's not mastered, and B, you have a volume knob. Like, you can use it. It's okay.
Are you very vocal with the client about that? Like, I'm just curious. Like, I know you, like you said, that you'll let them know you're a pretty raw mixer.
You have to measure personalities. And so what I mean by that is there's certain people who they're just going to want it the way they want it. Certain people, there is no discussions on the book. Like, for instance, you work with Kanye. Kanye wants it how Kanye wants it. There's no room for discussion. If you work with somebody like Pharrell, he's always open to conversation, or
There you go.
So it's personality based as well. You got to kind of pick your spots, know who you're talking to, know who you're dealing with.
I love your very service oriented method of your work. Like, I always tell people be of service when it comes to your work, but I really appreciate that. That seems to be the number one thing on your books.
It's about what they want, and it's about knowing how to talk to each client the way that's going to be the most effective.
Yeah.
So this is a question from Farzam. What are your favorite compressors to use on vocals and drums? Also, when do you decide not to use a compressor?
On vocals, I usually use the Renaissance compressor.
With a 17 attack and a 177 release at a 1.77.
There you go.
I'm not gonna lie, I have a setting on my computer. DK told me about this. He showed it to me. He applied it. I heard it. I saved it, and as the title, I put "What the fuck, Leslie." So I kid you not, it's just on a default recall, not because it's like a templated thing. It's just like, why did this work so well? How did you come up with that one?
Just again, if you notice the settings, it's very light. It's very low key. My theory on compression, and this is with most instruments, if you can hear the compressor working, you're compressing too much. That's my theory, especially with vocals. If you can hear the compressor, you're doing too much. So it's about light settings just to control things. And then on my main buses, I usually try to put like a Fairchild 670 Legacy on there. I love that thing. And sometimes I just default that thing. I just throw it on there and it just gives it a presence and a balance, and so I'm not the most complicated engineer.
Cool. Somewhere in this notebook I have your exact chain that you were using at the time. But it's true though. I do, because of you, I love the Fairchild 670 Legacy Edition. I love what it does to the mid-range.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And to the second part of that question is, when do you decide not to use a compressor?
When it's not necessary. When I don't feel like anything is going too crazy. If things sound consistent or if it sounds pretty good just on its own, then I decide not to.
Do you ever use a compressor for like transient shaping at that point? Do you use it I guess as like a coloration tool?
Sometimes, but not so much. And that would probably be more the job of the Fairchild in the sense of just bringing things up, some presence. But I don't go too deep into what I'm trying to shape on the top end. I like to let the top end be what it is.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then for me, it's about controlling levels, like which things should be louder, which things should be softer, that kind of thing.
Do you ever use clippers?
No,
Okay.
not a clipper type of guy.
That's
in
awesome.
life or in basketball.
So we're gonna go into the next question here. Do you have consistent? This is from Straight Trippin'. Do you have consistent reference songs? And if so, what are they?
Yes, and let me preface this answer by saying my answers are probably not going to work for you. And what I mean by that is reference is about a frame of reference. So the reasons why a specific group of songs are going to work for me is because they're songs that I know inside and out. I've heard them my whole life. I've heard them in a lot of different environments. I know how to dissect bass, mid-range, and high-end based on these specific records because I know those records so well. This list of records is going to be different for every person. So I am going to answer the question, but I don't want you to take the answer as this is the holy grail. This answer is only going to apply to me because these records are specific to me and my studying. Some of them may intersect with records on your list, but your list is really about what records do you know that you've dissected in multiple environments that you know you could use as standard records to reference environments. That being said, my list usually involves A Tribe Called Quest, Low End Theory, that the whole album. I mean, I can reference any record on that album for low end and understand what the low end is doing in that room. Again, because I've listened to that album so many times. So I have a very specific, intricate knowledge and relationship with what the low end is doing on that album to be able to know what it's doing in a specific space. Thriller, Michael Jackson. I know that album pretty solidly inside and out, so I can reference on speakers how it sounds. And I think the one that would probably inch up in that category as well is Portishead's Dummy. I love that album, and I've listened to it so many times that I have a very keen sense of where all the sounds sit and where each sound should be and that kind of thing. So for me, those three albums.
It's interesting. I like the way that you preface that in the sense that it's not going to work for you. The Tribe Called Quest album, you've been listening to that, I assume, since the retro headphone days.
Yeah, since it came out.
Yeah, so like, there you go. I think that's a big thing too, where people are familiar with different sounds and tones, and yeah, so I really love that. I love that. This is a question from It's Ricky Suave that says, I might want to change the wording of this, but it says, what's Leslie's chain for the low end? Or what are your typical processes for low end?
Low end, I'm always going to go to, first and foremost, you know the answer to this, DK. You know the first thing I'm going to go to is the Little Labs, Voice of God. I love that thing. I love it for low end shaping. A lot of times I use it on 808s, kicks, basses. It's just a real good low end resonance shaping tool. It's very simple. I like, and you'll notice something about me, even in the plugins I name. If it's a complicated plugin, I usually just go with the default, or I like very simple plugins with one knob or two. That's why the one knob series from Waves, best thing since sliced bread. I love the fact that they actually had a plugin series called the one knob, and they all got one knob that does one thing, and you just turn the knob and the thing happens. I think that's the most brilliant concept in because if you know me, you know I like simplicity. So the Little Voice of God, the Little Labs Voice of God has two knobs on it, I think. Other things for low end shaping, every now and then I'll break out the Submarine, the Wave Submarine. That thing is a bit of a beast. I don't use it much. Yeah,
That's exciting.
that's about it.
I have a
Oh,
question.
I have
on that.
one more. I'm sorry,
Oh.
I left out the Pultec, the PE. I forgot what is the Pultec one.
The
I forgot what
PEQ one?
EQP one?
I forget-
I
I
forgot what
forgot which
EPQ
one it is.
was. The Diamond one? Yeah,
Yeah,
the
but it's the
original.
Pultec EQ. It's the legacy one. I tend to like. I like jumping to that one as well. The Pultec stuff, I love how it sounds and how meaty
So-
and fat.
Just out of
It's
curiosity,
UAD,
'cause
by the way.
just out of curiosity, because you brought up the voice of God, the reason I got into that one myself, I'm actually a big lover of that one. But I actually was introduced to the hardware before the plugin. I didn't realize there was a plugin the whole time I was using the hardware. And that kind of prompts the question of, are you much of a hardware guy yourself? I believe you're mainly in the box. Like, how do you prefer to keep your workflow efficient?
Yeah, I have used the hardware gear, way back in the day, but actually right now I am super in the box. I don't like gear. I don't like external gear. I'm not one of those long-lived analog guys.
Yeah.
I think analog sucks. It's just too much trouble. It's too much noise. Stuff breaks.
I have
hate
that written down as a quote in my notebook.
Analog
Analog
sucks?
Analog sucks. It's quote. Analog sucks. I'm going to use the restroom real quick, but keep going.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, analog sucks. I love everything about technology and digital and how easy things are to manipulate. And I think the plug-in companies like UAD has made good sound more achievable. But yeah, I have used the voice of God, the actual gear, and like I said, I have used real gear in my early career in the '90s. Obviously, I've used that real life auto-tune before, the actual piece, the actual unit. And I used to use the PU1C. Most of the pieces of gear, most of the plugins I use, I have actually used a piece of gear. And that's why I was super impressed with UAD, because of how close and how good the plugins sound to the actual gear. But absolutely no outboard gear. I'm all in the box. I can mix my entire situation on my laptop. All I have is my laptop and my Apollo. That is it.
Nice.
And of course I use my speakers, but laptop and Apollo. That's it.
Now I've got 2 questions for you on that, because I did notice the Apollo, and you know how it goes. There's guys that are all about every single last converter on the market. It has to be compared 1,000 times over, which one does best at what. But I haven't really heard that about you. Now, one thing that somebody did ask, I'm forgetting who it is, I believe Farzam asked about.
Oh, someone earlier did ask about clocks.
Clocks, that you actually use a different clock when printing your bounce, and your process to that, if that's even the case. Is that something that you dive into? I know analog gear, not necessarily, but clocks?
There was a time when I did try out using a different clock at one point. I believe I had I still have it. I just don't use it. It was an Antelope clock.
Was it like the Orion or
the Atom one?
Atomic clock. The atomic clock. There you go.
Yeah. I forgot which one it was, but I used it. It is, when you clock, there is a slight difference. It sounds a little better, all that good stuff. So I'm not knocking the art of clocking and printing with a clock and all that kind of stuff. However, it's just not convenient. And for the volume of stuff I mix and for how people want, stuff turned around. Jack just came to me a week ago and was like, "Hey man, we need you on the rest of the album. Got to be turned in by," which the date was last Monday, in order to deliver on this Friday. You know what I mean? So it's, I don't have the time to try to be too nuanced about things like clocking. It does sound a little better, but I mix hip hop driven music, and hip hop isn't supposed to sound perfect. And I like the imperfect, and I like the raw. And I'm good with just printing directly in the box, just using my Apollo. The only thing I use my Apollo for is to process the UAD plugins, and it's also my monitoring, to hear it's my converter to hear the audio. But other than that, I'm not super big on all the nerdy, technical. It has to sound the best and has to be the best sounding clock ever. That shit doesn't matter. At the end of the day,
yeah.
I know a lot of guys who are super. Say it again. Excuse me.
Oh no,
I was gonna say I know a lot of guys who are super technical, super into all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm happy with the plaques that I've generated, and
with that.
And,
with that said, so obviously you've test and true gear, clocks, now we've discussed. Now, you mentioned that all you need is your Apollo, your laptop, and your monitors. Now, I heard a funny story where you'd rather die than mix on Genelex. And
Oh,
that's,
no. I think
no, is it?
the quote was, I'd rather jump off a bridge before I mix it.
Now, that's
I would rather do
okay.
both. Jump off the bridge and die before I mix on Genelex. Absolutely.
Now, if you don't mind me asking, I know this can change with time because there's always something new on the market or something that's always just worked out for different people. What monitors do you like and what do you like about them?
I absolutely love the Focals.
Mm-hmm.
I've loved them ever since I've heard them. They deliver such tight, clean, low end. The high end never changes, and that's because the tweeters are made out of beryllium, and beryllium does not change. It's they just sound amazing, and they don't fatigue my ears, and that's the one thing I love. I can run them at a decent level, and they just don't fatigue my ears. And they just have a really tight. They built well. They understand sound well. All the Focals I've heard in the higher range, like professional monitor space, whether it's the ones I use, the ones I have right here are the Twin 6 BEs. I have a pair of Trios down at Full Sail. I have used the SM9s. All of those sound amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Have you ever like branched out of them and then went back to Focal, or what has like, DK and I have kind of gone through a monitor journey, if you'd call it that,
Yeah, I've tried a few. I tried the Adams. Adams are a little brittle for my taste.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried the Barefoots. Those are a little heavy for my taste. But nothing feels as familiar and great as the Focals for my ears, and for me, nothing feels like them.
Fair. Yeah, I heard at the pandemic you were using them in your truck.
Yeah, I took the Twin 6s in my truck. I mixed WAP. I mixed that in the truck.
Wow.
What's popping? What's popping? I finished up in the truck.
Brand new whip
Yeah.
just locked in. That's right.
Facts. I got options.
I have to ask now, like, okay, now I'm trying to visualize this. Were you in the driver's seat with them in the back?
So what
Were
I
you in
did-
the trunk laying on your stomach, mixing on a keyboard? Like,
No, so what I did is I have a Cadillac Escalade. It has 3 rows.
Mhm.
So I was sitting in the 3rd row. I had the captain's chairs in the 2nd row flipped down. And then I put some cushions on top of those and then put the speakers on the cushions. So as I sit in the 3rd row, the speakers are like right there on the flip down captain's chairs. And then I had like a little desk that had very short legs that can fit right over it, almost like it looked like a glorified eating tray
okay.
that would you would sit over your legs on a bed or something. I had that, and then I just had my laptop and my Apollo, and I would sit there in the truck in the 3rd row chilling, and it was like my office. And
I've never heard a more luxurious mix room ever, an Escalade.
Yeah.
So,
It was amazing.
I know a lot of people have talked about that. It kind of made some memes and whatnot. It was awesome. But for you, was that just pragmatic? Like, did you not have a setup in the home yet, or like?
I didn't have a setup in the home yet, and COVID was pretty rapid and pretty much like, okay, you can't go in the studio. Nobody can go anywhere. We're quarantined. But I had to get work done, and I didn't have this room. Right now, I have a room set up in the house, but I didn't have things set up. I didn't treat the corners, and I have panels that I put up. And over time, you sit in a room and you put up different soundproofing elements and da-da-da. I didn't have that before. I have stuff on my ceiling right here. I got soundproofing around. So and also it was practical and pragmatic from a standpoint of, saying, hey, let me try mixing in the truck, seeing how I like it, because it became my own office. Because the other thing is, now I got to share the house with 3 other people, my wife and my daughters, and they're going to homeschool. My wife is upstairs in her office. Me and my wife still work both from home, but we're on opposite sides of the house, so that's good. She's upstairs on that side, and I'm downstairs on this side. But my kids are here. And mixing a song like WAP, I can't mix that around my daughters. So I got to find a location to where they can't hear what I'm working on. So
How's that been for you? Are you mixing almost full time from home now? I mean,
I'm mixing not even almost, absolutely full time. Obviously, I'm not mixing in the truck anymore. I moved from the truck into this room, like I said. But I love mixing from home. Everything.
I was gonna say, how's that mentality shift? You enjoy mixing from home?
Amazing. The only one thing I miss is the camaraderie at the studio with the fellas, and we kind of meet up at the studio every now and then to kind of keep that going. And I'm on the phone every day with Cannon, and we keep our communication alive. But other than that, and Cannon and I are both kind of like the same person. We're introverts, and we like being at the studio, but we like the nerdy stuff, and we like drum machines and sitting around with Pro Tools. And I got my DJ equipment right here, so this is my space and it's my comfort zone. I don't really like people. I don't want to go to the studio. I don't want everybody smoking weed and drinking. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't like none of that stuff. Like, I don't really like people. I'm an introvert.
You know what? I just want to now say that Leslie is now my idol. Like, I've never heard a more accurate depiction as to my personality.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even mean. It's just personal preference at that point. Yeah.
And I also realized this is one key factor. I also realized this is what was the game changer for me. Working from home, I actually get way more work done. I realized that at the studio, I wasted a lot of time, and here's why. At the studio, there's 20 people who speak my language. I can have 3 conversations about kick drums. I can have a conversation about sampling and all this stuff that lasts, 45 minutes, 2 hours. At home, nobody gives a shit about what I do. They don't speak my language. So I get my work done, and then I'm out there watching Encanto or something with the girls, or that's the thing. So at home I get so much more done. And at the studio I waste so much time talking.
How many times have you watched Encanto now, all the way through?
I think I'm on probably 256 maybe.
That's it?
Yeah, so
That's amazing.
right. Yeah,
we're running out of time.
Tonight will be 257.
We're running out of time here. Oh, I wonder if the video
freeze up?
It looks like it's frozen up a little bit. Oh, but I'm wondering, we're running out of time here. I don't want to do more than, and we're really, really grateful for any time that you give to us. But I want to ask last few very important questions here as you're kind of getting the camera going again. This is from Elijah, and he has a 2-part question. I'm only going to ask the second part, which is, what gets you up in the morning? What keeps you motivated?
Starbucks.
That's a good answer.
And yeah. Hold on, I'm trying to adjust my camera because now I'm like, oh.
No, we'll do a little edit here. I'm gonna do a little clap.
And he's back.
So we're gonna do another clap.
I'm back.
So what gets you up in the morning?
I just love music. I think that's the underlying thing about mixing and what we do is I just love the craft of mixing. I love music. I absolutely love music. So, the freedom of being able to do something you love and not have to walk within the normal constraints of what a lot of people have to experience in life, where they have to get up and do a job they don't like to make money, to survive. The freedom of not having to do that is amazing.
So my question, I have, this is something that I have struggled with from time to time, a very first world philosophical problem. How do you maintain gratitude and love for your work? Has there ever been times where it starts to feel stagnant or your love for music feels weak?
Almost like a burnout.
Yeah. Have you ever been burned out? And how do you maintain? Because I really feel that you are very passionate about music. How do you maintain that?
I think for me, the key to not getting burned out is I always have fun. And even in the micro, even when you look at just your day of mixing, I may be mixing a record that I don't really like. And then I just take a lot of breaks and play Call of Duty a lot. But I get through it. So it's always about having fun and making sure that this is fun. And I think now in my career, I've gravitated more towards not dealing with clients that I don't like. When I feel like a client is about to be a headache, I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm good." And it becomes less about the money and the earning and more about the passion of it. And yes, I still want to earn and make money and provide for my family, but I also don't want to be stressed. So it's easier to make decisions based on if I'm gonna enjoy it or not. But yeah, getting burned out for me is it's easy not to, because I have other things to focus on. I like other things. I build Legos. I play Call of Duty, and then I go hang out with my family. And then we don't we try to do a few vacations a year, and I try to go pretty ham on our vacations. I like so it's just about my thing is quality. I might not we may go on maybe only 2 trips this year or maybe 3, but they're going to be quality trips. They're going to be fun. I'm very much into. I'm the dad in the pool with the kids when all the other dads are on their phones and checking emails. I'm When I'm on vacation, I'm on vacation. I'm checked out. So I think it's about also being very much into what you're into, and knowing how to take breaks. And the biggest thing, to answer your question, is knowing how to care for yourself. Self-care is important. Knowing how to, when you wake up and you're not going to have a good day, if you have the time to put a mix off until the next day, sometimes it's worth it. Knowing how to take care of your mental health.
So for you specifically, what are ways that you found? Oh, hold on, wait. Let me ask this a little bit better. Part 1, what kind of things have you found to be cathartic for you and good for your mental health? 2, how long did it take for you to discover that you enjoy these things?
For me, it was very early on, in the discovery process. And what I mean by that is I always knew who I was from a very early age. So you heard me joke earlier about the fact that I don't like people. Been that way my whole life. I've always known I was a nerd when it wasn't popular to be a nerd. In the 80s, it wasn't popular to be a nerd. A nerd was looked at as, a negative thing. But I was always comfortable being who I was. I walked around with a backpack, and all I had in my backpack was a red sports car and a Rubik's Cube. I had a saxophone. I was nerdy. I had thick glasses, and I loved it. I loved who I was, and I loved that I played video games. I would sit my mom worked by an airport, so I would sit and watch the planes land and take off. That was my fun hobby thing to do. So even now, it's funny, I found a way to bring my happy place. So for instance, I may be mixing. I have 3 screens in front of me. On the central screen, I'm mixing. On the screen to the right, I always have a YouTube live video of some airport. It may be LAX, or I typically tend to play the live LAX feed most of the time. And it's just a bunch of, heavies, heavy aircraft landing and taking off. They usually focus on the heavies. They focus on like the 747s or the A330s or the big 777s. And I just love watching planes land and take off. And it's something I did as a kid. That was my happy place. I would go out on this little stoop and I would watch the planes take off and land by the airport, because my mom, like I said, worked right by the airport. And it was just my happy place. And I would just sit there and I would listen to music and I would watch the planes take off. So even now when I'm mixing, right now on the screen next to me is a live feed of LAX with planes landing and taking off. And it's just, that's my way of creating my happy space.
Have you seen Wayne's World when they're on the hood of their car?
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
What you don't know is Leslie has that on his screen.
Right. And I do that from time to time. Like I go to Orlando a lot, or when I go to different cities. I've been to Dallas. I've always, when I have time in a city, if I'm there for a few days or sometimes on vacation, but a lot of times if I'm there for business or for something specific, I will find the places that I can go plane spotting. I would sit, outside the landing path of an airport and just watch planes land and sit there and eat my lunch, or, that's just my thing.
That's so funny. I do the same thing with my 3-year-old. He loves watching. We go to the Burbank airport like 10 minutes away, like right next to the strip, and just watch planes go up and down. He loves
plane
it.
Spotting is something I've always loved, and it's literally right now I have on my screen the LAX live feed right now.
That is nerdy. That is
right
nerdy.
Yeah, it's super nerdy. Yeah,
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Leslie. I think we want to leave off with this. We have a bunch of different listeners on this show, and your teachings have influenced me, and I teach a lot of the same things that you teach or once passed down to me. I think we'd all love to hear 3 different pieces of advice. One is from a beginner standpoint, one is from an intermediate standpoint, and one is from a more advanced standpoint, maybe making a living already from music.
Okay.
What are your 3 levels of advice?
3 levels of advice. From a beginner standpoint, Always be geared towards learning. Always, always, always be in that gear of learning. Um, Learning every part of your craft, but also learning human behavior, learning, what people like, what they don't like, how, learning is to me the key word for the beginner. For the intermediate, I would say the advice from the four agreements is probably going to kick in the best and the most, which is not taking things personal. That's where because once you learn some things and you get some traction in your career, one of the things that holds a lot of young engineers and producers up is taking a lot of stuff personal. So learning how not to take things personal, I think, that is one of the best of the four agreements, in my opinion, is learning how not to take things personal. And then for the more advanced part of your career, understanding that all the things you've learned and all the technical knowledge that goes into your craft, it's less about learning the gear and it's more about learning the craft. And I always say, learn the craft, focus less on the gear, because the gear changes. The craft pretty much stays the same. So I think in your advanced years, focus more on the craft and focus more on feel and not just all the technical stuff. Because in your advanced years, you can tend to get very like, oh, I know how to do all this stuff and learn more gear, learn more plugins, da da da. But it's about feel and that kind of stuff. That's what I would say.
Perfect. Well, I think that's a great end to this podcast.
Yeah.
Once again, we're really, really grateful for all the time that you put into this. Thank you for all the content that you make outside of this. I'm sure many people are listening right now that have watched some of your YouTube videos and different things. So, will we see
I'm
you
always on YouTube and that kind of stuff. And you can find me on Twitch, Lester Bud on Twitch. I'm on there pretty much every night playing Call of Duty. I answer questions about audio and everything in between. So.
That's right. So one more time, that's twitch.tv/LesterBud, LesterBud. Yeah, there you go. So check out Leslie if you want to ask him more questions. Go on to his stuff. Go on to his Twitch stream, and I'll plug it in for anybody that's watching right now. That's kind of it. We're really grateful for all of your time, all your effort. We hope that we do another one later, sometime in the future. And then also NAMM. Are you going to NAMM next month?
I think I'm going to NAMM. I got to figure out it's in June, right?
It's June. First week of June.
3rd, 4th, 5th, I believe it is.
Yeah, I think I should be able to finagle that. So I've been asked, I think Antares wants me to do something. Wade wants me to do something.
I'll be at the Antares booth. They asked me to rep for them for 2 days.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm supposed to do what's his name? Heinrich. Who
Heinrich.
Mix with the Masters. Yeah, Heinrich asked me to do something via email the other day. So
it's actually kind of funny story about the Antares booth. So the way me and DK met is through Henrik, which I did not know was at Mix with the Masters with DK. DK went to the booth to go say hi to him. Henrik wasn't there. And
with Lou. That's how we met.
DK was just like, do you mind if I stay and wait for him? We're like, cool. And I was like, well, what's your name? What do you do? How are you enjoying your day?
Well, did you see me last time, Lou? Because I came. Heinrich was the one who brought me into. It wasn't NAMM. It was AES when.
I wasn't at the AES one, so I did IMSTA. I did NAMM for them. I've done a couple private events for them and everything. So I've been repping for them for a few years, but I think I missed the one with you because I remember I've seen some mutual friends like Ashby and Tizio. Greg Wells was there at the times that I've been there. Like a lot of mutual cats,
nice.
Have been there. But I think I've missed yours, unfortunately. But hopefully this year we get to see each other in person.
Hey, so we're gonna end this.
Absolutely.
We're gonna end the stream now. Thank you so much for everybody that's been watching, for that's been listening. Happy mixing, my friends, and stay saucy. All right. So we end the recording there. All right, Leslie, before we sign off, there's something really important.
Uh-huh.
I can't ask these questions without giving away my intention. With your camera, can you show me your keyboard setup?
Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh,
you said show
you're in for it.
Oh.
Okay, you have a nice little keyboard there. Do you have to live with a number?
I know.
pad?
Do you hear the smirkiness in his
It's so
comment?
weird.
Hold on.
so
Do you
weird.
do you have to have a number pad? Is that something super important for you?
No. Wait, I also have another keyboard for this bad boy. I have.
And that is one bad boy.
Oh, there you go. All right, I'm gonna show you something.
Asus Rogue.
Is that a dual connection on it? It requires so much power.
Yeah,
it has
for
2
the mouse.
USB ports on it.
Lastly,
Well,
what's
the
your
mouse is plugged into that. and
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
so
I was
it's
like,
one
damn.
cord going to the computer, but the mouse is going to the keyboard.
I was
Also,
about to say that's some
lastly,
extreme gaming.
lastly, what is your favorite colors? Colors.
My favorite colors. It depends. If it's for my Mac setup, it doesn't matter. Are you talking about keyboards, or like if I were to get a different keyboard, I would probably get the same color, or it doesn't matter, to be honest with you. It doesn't
So
have
classy,
to be dark.
simple.
It could be.
No, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Silver.
One of my recent hobbies is that I like build and customize my own keyboards. I have a bunch of keyboards. I don't know if you can even see
You're
that.
nerdier than I am.
Yeah, like I will like solder things. This one has like lights on the outside. And then this one's like
Wow.
an ergonomic shape, so it looks really weird. Different colors, different
You
lights.
are nerdier than I.
I know.
I would agree.
I
did not know
know.
you were nerdier than
I
I.
know.
Jeez.
So here's the deal. Please indulge me and let me do my fun hobby. I would love to gift you a simple, a keyboard, and so and give it to you at NAM.
I'm all
So
for it.
So that's what I was asking. Like, you have to have a number pad when you work. I'll get you something. RGB.
No, it's whatever.
RGB
Whatever
classy
you feel like
symbol.
doing. Whatever you feel like doing is fine. It doesn't, no
I'm a-
requirements.
All the
I
keycaps
just
are gonna
love
be
that-
like
I
cardboard.
love that you're nerdier than me.
Actually, could you do the iconless keycaps for him?
There you go. Just clean, iconless, no legends. That's an option. Kind of different things.
You'll only know where F and J are, and that's it.
Or
like
hold
it.
on. Last thing. This is actually super important. I'm gonna share with you my screen real quick. Ooh, let me stop Pro Tools. Okay. Keyboard types. Last thing.
You're
We're-
such a nerd. I
This
love
is
this.
there's okay. There's do you have to have an F row?
What the fuck is an F row?
Like your F1 to 12.
I think that
Function?
answers the question.
Yeah, the
Yeah, I
function rows.
Yeah, I was like, what is an F row? Okay.
And
It doesn't
arrow
matter,
keys.
DK.
F row
Whatever-
and arrow
Whatever
keys.
floats your boat.
I want to
Whatever
be able.
floats
I
your
want
boat,
you to be able to
whatever
use it
finds
every
your
day.
lost remote.
Also, do you like?
Whatever works for
I'm
you.
gonna ask you a DK style question now, because of his line of questions. Do you prefer a click or a thonk?
Clicky keyboard? No, those are annoying. Clicky keyboards are annoying. I'll get you a classy
Thonk.
one that'll make you appreciate it and feel nostalgic.
Would Cisco sing about it?
I
Would
didn't
he
know it
sing
was
the thonk
referred to as
song?
a thunk.
Or it's a thock.
Yeah, I didn't-
Oh, a
T-H-O-C-C.
thok.
A thock. Okay. I didn't know it was that was the term, but is that the clicky one or the thocky one?
This is the thocky one. Is it coming through? It's like a deep thock. So it's the sound of it hitting the board, not of it clicking.
Do you have a clicky one?
I do not have any clicky boards.
Okay, well, let's go with the thock.
All right, that's all I wanted to ask. We'll see you at NAM. I'm really excited. Thank you again for all your time. Hope your family is well and your
course.
daughters are well.
Absolutely.
It is so fun to watch my kids grow up, and man, it is so fun being a dad, and I appreciate your example in all of this. All right. That's it. I think there's nothing else to say. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for sticking by. And go check out
Absolutely.
Leslie's
Good
stream.
to meet you, luxurious Lou.
Oh, thank you. Nice to meet you too. And once again, super appreciate how you do business and the way you treat your clients. Very
Thank you.
mutual point.
All right. Thank you, Leslie.
All right.
Peace.
My guy DK.
Alrighty. So we are good. That's it for this episode. How was it for everybody that was watching? For anybody that's watching right now, how was that episode? That was an absolute fantastic. I think we got a lot of stuff. What was your insight, Lou? That was like your first time ever like hanging out with him and meeting him.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's kind of funny that he mentioned, he's like, I've done events for them, and it seems like we've never actually crossed paths. And like, I think I've been repping for Antares since 2018. So we're going on 4, maybe 5 years now. Because I've done 2 NAMs and 3 other events for them. Each one spaced out by at least half a year. But no, honestly, what I really appreciated about him is his responses were extremely similar to my thought process, which only further served to kind of like, I guess, reconfirm my notion of like how I approach the mix, how I approach my clients. I really like his thoughtfulness in doing right by his client over his own personal opinion of what is necessary. Like, obviously his opinion is what he's getting paid for, but if the client ultimately says, but I want it to be this, he's mindful in saying, okay, well, let me deliver that. Let me use my expertise to deliver what they asked for. But as far as his answer to like, do you have a sound? I actually really appreciated his answer because it was more mindful of his client and not of himself. And like I said earlier, like, I'm very much like that with most of my clients, where at a certain point, like, the job can be frustrating some days. I like that he said he takes breaks, video games for that, which is how I've kind of found myself to avoid burnouts. You have to take frequent breaks and all that. But like you said, as far as the analog question, I really like that he said, he's like, it's stupid. Fuck analog, whatever. But main reason was because of timelines. Like, at a certain point, we do have time to like compare clocks and all that, like he said, but because of his workload, he no longer has time to really justify the extra time that it takes to do so. Because somebody in the comments actually asked before, I don't know if before or after we got the answer to this, he mentioned all he needs is his Apollo, his focals, and his laptop. And most people that come up under us or around us will always ask, like, what converter do I need? And somebody in the comments said, like, do I need to spend the 3Gs on a Hilo, which is the interface I have. But Hilos at 3Gs, though they do sound great, Leslie's over here 12 plus Grammys later, working on an Apollo Twin, which costs 3 times, almost 4 times less. I think Leslie's a great example of you don't have to overthink it, which is very much how he mixes as well. Like, his personality and his mixes are almost one, and that's what I can appreciate about the guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that was like a good episode. Last question for you, Lou. We've known each other quite a while now, especially
2 years.
intimately about music and mixing and whatnot. Can you tell that I take a lot of influence from him?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, since we met, you didn't stop talking about the guy in a positive way, not in a bad way. But I could also tell.
Of course.
No. But in a way that was like, most people will take the influence of those who gloat or assume greatness. Leslie's influence on yours was more of almost a therapeutic nature, if that makes sense. Most of the influence that he has had on you has actually resulted in you not really giving a shit about other people's standards, but rather what you thought was necessary and what was realistically not necessary. Like he said, he's like, I used analog gear. Not necessary. It gets in my way. The one thing that I can say about you is DK doesn't like analog. Why? Because if it takes 5 extra minutes, that's 5 minutes he lost, wasting his time.
That's 5 minutes I could have spent with my kids, kissing my kids.
Yep. And because Leslie is also a father, you actually take a lot of influence in his work nature and how he deals with his work in ways that can actually help you with your family. So yeah, I could totally tell. But I've heard people who say, I like so-and-so mix because like he's so confident about his sound, even when like his clients don't like it, like he pushes for it, this and that. I'm like, no, that's not really a great trait to have. It's
Jason Joshua, for example. Some people love him.
Some people mix and all that.
Some people love him. Some people hate him.
Yeah, but it's kind of cool that like what I liked about Leslie's response is like, One thing I've always kind of found is I don't really believe in arguments or anything like that. Egos get in the way all the time. I tell people once you get comfortable, you've messed up already. Leslie said that anytime he gets told to send a mix to somebody else, he doesn't get insulted or affected by it. When he has different mastering engineers work on different things, he's not really necessarily checking it after because he's built a level of trust and understanding with the people that he works with. It's not necessarily to say that he lives a carefree lifestyle, but there's a level of understanding and respect and boundaries that he set that I've seen you mimic. When the client sends you a mix, they don't really worry about it too much. I know you're particular about your mastering engineers and all that, but it's because you've already put so much intention behind it that it's more like you're more worried about like, hey, look, my client wanted this. This is why they called me. Any alteration to this is no longer a service to my client.
And to be fair, I recognize that that's one of my weaknesses is being able to trust a mastering engineer. That is one of my weaknesses. I don't consider that a strength in any sense of the word. But so for you exactly, what was like two of your biggest takeaways for yourself personally?
Minimalism. Because I feel like a big thing for me, takeaway sometimes is reinforcing something you already knew but questioned repeatedly. Something that Leslie echoed without intent was simplicity and not overthinking the situation. Making sure that his client was good versus his rack was good. Making sure that if he was going to make any kind of changes to the mix, it was about knowing what was actually serving the client, but it's things that we question all the time, right? Like we were talking about the difference between Andrew Sheps and Leslie. We talked about like Leslie is almost Andrew is almost overcomplicated in his mix while Leslie's very simple, but both of them do a really good job at it. But I've always kind of been like a top-down mixer where like I like to do minimal processing if I can, this and that, try to retain everything as original as I can, reference the rough and everything, which it seems like Leslie does, but there's been many times where I question myself on that, like, am I really not doing enough? Am I really, like, maybe I should have added more time. Maybe I should have done this. Maybe I should have done that when my client was fine with it. Hearing Leslie talk about, like, I just do what my client wants, and part of what they're paying me for is sometimes to not do anything is very reassuring in that notion, because we had a lot of people commenting, what's his low end chain, this and that, does he like to compress his low end, this and that, because he actually does have powerful low end mixes like Money by Cardi B. But it's funny to hear him say, he's like, yeah, voice of God. Do you like using compressors? Not when it's not necessary. It's so minimalistic that it's like his setup's minimalistic, his approach is minimalistic, he himself is very minimalistic, but it results in a very big sound.
I agree totally. It's really interesting. His balance between everything is incredible, where like he's somehow philosophically. Oh, by the way, Lynn Hart, 97. I apologize. I know. I'm now seeing that you did heavy Japanese accent. That was probably while we were talking to Leslie. My bad. I just sing it now. But yes. My favorite part about Leslie Braithwaite is his balance for technical thought process and practical usage.
Yeah, actually, I agree, because when we asked him about his, like about his DA and clocking, he's like, yeah, like it makes a difference. I'm not going to knock it. Everybody can use it, but it didn't make that big of a difference where it was make or break, And I really like that, because at the very least, he didn't say like, he did say fuck analog, or analog sucks. Yeah. He quote analog sucks. But he's like, if you like it, use it. It's just not for me. Which is a very honest way to go about it. It's like, if you like it, you like it. If not, like, I like what UA is doing. I like what the plugins are doing. I like his candidness.
Me too. Yeah. I also like.
Hey, that's not bad Japanese accent.
I also like his candidness.
Yeah.
So very much stuff to learn from Leslie. Very good, very much stuff to learn from Leslie. Very nice guy.
Yeah, he's actually very, very kind.
Very kind.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I'm not big on like conversations that like, or I guess dedicated conversations that last like an hour and a half and this and that. So I wouldn't want to ask him more, but I still wanted to ask him more.
No. That was close.
No, it's still within.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
We see. お疲れ様です。はいはい、ありがとうございます。I forgot what I was going to say.
His candidness, his politeness. He's.
Oh, I also too want to ask many questions.
Mhm.
I very much want to ask many more questions です。But I feel bad about taking his time, and he is so
Yeah.
generous with his time.
Yeah.
Very, very kind man, and very influential to my life.
Which, okay, speaking on that, second takeaway was his viewpoint on the how to explain when you should actually, how you should transition and why you should just cut off recording if you wanted to go straight into mixing. It can be applied to any strange.
Branding is part of it for sure.
Exactly, but I love that he actually
Sure.
used a personal example of I forget the engineer in question that was recording Madonna, but
Madonna's
yeah,
Madonna's engineer.
which is it's a great example of like when people say it's like, you know, for instance, you know, I had that issue with Keisha. Like now that I'm actually like mixing and I recently got to produce on a record, but I've been her recording engineer for so long that every time I wanted to mix something, she always had her go-to mix person, which was Jason. And I'm over here trying to make that transition, but as I start to create separation of the roles between us, the more I see her taking other things I do seriously. You know what I mean? And same
Yes.
thing with most of my clients. Like we had a mutual client that called me, said, oh, you know, hey, DK's no longer recording. I want to know if I could pay you to record me so we can have DK mix it. I'm like, I'm actually not recording either. He's like, wait, really? I was like, yeah. He's like, man, you guys are moving up. I'm like, I wouldn't consider it moving up. I'd just call it a transition. You know, I'm just not looking for the late nights anymore. I'm not looking for that. I want to be more in the mastering side. I still mix for some of my clients, but you know, for most of the people that I work with, I just do mastering now. And that's it. And it actually helped in creating that boundary.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So for me, when I stopped recording, it was very, very scary. Very, very quiet, very scary. And at the first, I wasn't sure that I made the right decision. Then, but after much time, it really benefited me. So for me, Lou likes my boundaries, my boundaries talk, and I think that the boundaries is not just for me and my mental health, but also for.
Do you want to go back to English now?
I'm gonna go back to English.
Yeah.
But it's like not just for my mental health, but it's also for like, that was so hard.
Yeah.
It's also like the branding PR thing. I think dropping everything but mixing is very, very difficult. And even when I came here, I had to drop, like I picked everything back up. I was recording again. But even in the last, you've noticed that ever since the new year, ever since I stopped recording with C and her people, I'm not doing any more recording sessions at all.
Yeah.
And I'm getting offers where people are offering me money that's totally worth doing it for, but I still say no.
Yeah.
And partially I don't like recording and I don't enjoy it as much, but also like I really do think it's the branding thing. There's something about, I think it is mostly a perception thing, but I also think there's something to say about I have chosen the path of I'm a master of one thing. I'm not a jack of all trades. For example, and I think both are beneficial. I don't think that there's a right answer to this. For example, I think you're like a jack of all trades. And you specialize in a few things, but I can't build a recording studio like you can. I can't. There's many things that I can't do live sound like you do. There's many things that you do that you have a much diverse knowledge of and a much deeper understanding of. But I think the question then becomes whether or not it's not about who's better, but I think there's something undeniable as well about like the practical application of this. Like I have done nothing but mixing the last 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've never left the studio. I've never done live sound. I've never designed studios other than for myself.
Yeah.
So like I've been filling in fruits. I've been filling up baskets, but I've only had one basket.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering if there's, and this is a question that I'm asking you, have you felt like there's an advantage to that compared to, because you're a master of filling up a bunch of baskets.
Mm-hmm.
What are kind of the pros and cons in your eyes?
So I'm sure you know the complete phrase of a jack of all trades
Is a master of none, but is still better than a master of one?
Yes. Now it's a double-edged sword. It really is. So nowadays I will only mix for specific clients, or if there's an understanding between clients. You know, if you can go on my site and pay for my my flat rate, I will mix your song. But that doesn't mean that we negate the conversation of how to properly get me the files and everything. Now, the reason I go into mastering as my sole job now, because, you know, I master for people and that's what I do. And I'm really good at it. But it's mainly because of the experience and understanding of, you know, we have to learn to communicate with the clients. Who's actually paying me? Who's hiring me? Who's the end result for? And I'm big on that, which is why I really appreciated Leslie's answer, because that's very much how he is too. Now, for me, starting out in my industry here in LA, you know, they talk about needing multiple revenue streams in order to really live comfortably in Los Angeles. You know, that may mean having different types of passive income or being able to wear many different hats. In my case, since I was a kid, I learned to do many different trades. And because of that, I actually was able to you know, learn how to do construction, learn how to do installation and systems for different cars and understanding electronics and all that.
And to be fair, yeah, I've also, to be honest, now that you're saying that out loud, I also agree with you. I've done lots of other things to diversify my portfolios for, like, for example, my marketing firms, and my label stuff. So there's
which
many
helped
things.
You sustain yourself in your specific niche.
Am I really? I would say that, in that sense, you're right. Like, I am a jack of many trades, as it would come with age.
But
I make keyboards
in your
too.
Career,
I'm a keyboard specialist. But in
your career sense, you're a niche.
Yeah, I'm definitely, when I do engineering, I just do one thing.
Yeah,
but I do a lot more than just engineering, for sure.
Yeah, like when I'm when you talk to me about studio gigs, I'm only available currently for mastering. If you want to pay for my mixing, I'm not the cheapest guy on the market, and I hate to say it this way, but there's kind of a reason for it, which echoes Leslie's point, which is you're paying for my experience, not for my tools. It's a poor workman that blames his tools, right? Now, with that said, I also have been able to build many, many big name relationships because of my jack of all trades nature. As you know, like the reason you got into the Trey Song session is because of my relationship to their camp. I was busy with building. It's kind of funny, like, because this is a good example of this whole jack of all trades thing. Trey Song's manager called me to do the recording session for Trey Songs, which I've done many times before, but I wasn't available. And when I said, I can refer somebody for you, he's like, I don't want anybody else. I want you. Okay, well, I'm not available. They're like, when are you available? I'm like, when do you need me? He's like, in an hour or two. I'm like, I'm not available. At that moment, I was installing a custom acrylic TV framing that was all remotely controlled for Nick Cannon in the studio that I also built for him, that had a gym inside of it, which he wanted it in the gym. So while I'm doing one type of work for the music industry, I'm also getting called for the other. And because of this, I was able to say, look, I have somebody I trust. And because I had this level of trust with many different people, because the reason I got involved with Trey Songs in general is because I built his recording studio. I installed the SSL. I actually did all the vocal chains and everything. And because of that, I actually not only had a deep understanding of the room, which made it so where anytime they had a question, they would call me, but I was able to build trust with them. And because they knew I was a recording engineer at the time, they'd call me to do the recordings. And I'd be there for 12 to 24 hours sometimes. But that gave me the flexibility to now start branching off and saying, hey, I can't do it, but let me refer you to somebody who can. And that's where you came in, and ended up recording with them for a couple days. And it was all based off of the trust that we had built from this jack of all trades gig. that originally popped up. It's like, what
That's
does
fair.
he do? He builds console setups with patch bays and blah blah blah. He actually does monitor calibration, blah 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 blah. While I was doing
But
something else for somebody
so
else,
let
so
me
that's
ask you-
actually helped in like getting me in the room with different people.
So for you, I know that you've recently, as in like the last couple of years, you've made a switch where, as far as like branding and perception, you've been promoting yourself more as a mastering engineer. I think it's been long enough to say, like, how has your results been from this experiment?
I make just as much in mastering than I do in mixing.
Nowadays, was that true before?
No. Actually, I did master for a lot of people. I was actually already mastering for a lot of people, but I charge 5 times as much for mixing than I do mastering. So I ended up with 5 times as much work since niching down, which was scary because I also was making good amount in recording, but now I'm able to pay my rent and my bills and everything off of mastering. So at first it was actually scary. It was a big drop off, but niching down into mastering has actually helped out. And if anything, I actually work with bigger names because of it.
So it's actually helped you long term, you would say?
It's helped me long term, especially like, for instance, like Bob Horn, who's, a mutual friend of ours. His
That was about
mastering
the
engineer.
same time that you decided to go more solo.
It was just before.
Yeah, like you decided to niche as right before you kind of offered that to him.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, because of this, most of the people that he's referred me to end up calling me as their sole mastering engineer. I know they probably use other ones, but like they like what I do, they like how I work, they like my turnaround times, this and that. And because I'm dealing with, this was the biggest part for me as a mastering engineer switch over. It's not that I don't like working with clients necessarily, but I love working with organized people, and that usually means that they work on a much more professional capacity, which means that me being a mastering engineer, I get to work with mixing engineers that already have a sense of organization and respect in the industry. They have a sense of workflow and consistency to where when we work in a consistent nature. I know what they want. We can openly communicate. There's no egos. It's just, hey, let's do what's right for the record. I need it by this date. Here's all the files you should need. Payments are always on par. Usually when a mixing engineer does work with mastering engineers, they're usually at a higher level, which means communication with upper management and everything is much more consistent. It was a huge game changer when it came to the professionalism I'm surrounded by. And this was all decisions before reading the book Atomic Habits, which I should be done with in the next couple days. The clients you surround yourself with will also dictate your level of professionalism that you end up delivering, because if they don't really care about certain standards, you start not caring about those same standards either, and I don't really want that.
Amen.
I want to work with people who solely want the best end result and want the best relationship. So working with people who have that mentality also helps shape my professionalism.
Awesome. So on that note, it's kind of getting late and we have some things to do. Thank you so much for sticking around. Please stay excited for every Tuesday episode. We're going to do more recording and whatnot. So thank you so much for sticking around. Happy mixing, my friends, and stay saucy.
Boom.
Peace.